Much better, like night and day better, even though it's not necessarily all there, but it's 100% better to me.
This might be like an ASMR day of the zone, like a whisper quiet kind of day of the zone.
Welcome back here in the zone right here on Sports Radio 810. It's the Quiet Storm.
You've talked about, always wanting to do play-by-play in sports talk radio. Did you ever think about National Public Radio? Today could be our chance. Today could be our chance to welcome back into the zone here. Today we're going to go to Arrowhead Stadium and hear from Kansas City Chiefs head coach Andy Reid.
We bring in Adam Teicher to the conversation. And Adam, you do such a great job covering the Kansas City Chiefs for ESPN, and your coverage is known worldwide. Thank you for joining us. How are you on this lovely Tuesday? Thank you, Adam. Adam, your takeaway, just your assessment of the Chiefs beating the Vikings on Sunday. Just curious to pick your brain for a little bit and grab those little morsels of information out of that big noggin of yours, Adam. Go right ahead and let the fine folks, the listeners out there, know what you think of that victory by the Chiefs.
Adam, looking back to Sunday, what an incredible performance from Travis Kelce. I mean, just a day that you had to look at him and you just had to say, wow.
Did you say wow, Adam? Did you say wow?
Adam, what was the environment? Put us in the stadium with you. How loud did it get there up in Minnesota? It seemed like it was raucous.
Did you ever say wow one time? Because I said wow.
I said wow. Frankly, I lost my mind.
And then I reversed it, and it was still wow. It was weird.
I said, holy smokes. And then I apologized to my family for the foul language.
And I said, what a fudging play. And then I said, you know what? RG3 and I now have something in common. Neither of us play in the NFL. And we also use the word fudging. All right, so let's get into the show, 913. And we'll also talk with Braden Gall coming up at 1:20. He is from ESPN Radio, Athlon Sports, our college football insider. We will talk with him some college football with the 1-2 record of the local teams over the weekend. KU getting the win over UCF, the team I picked to lose. And the other teams I picked to win. So do not, fade me on, I hope you did last weekend on that. Last week, I hope you followed me, fading me in the weekend with those particular picks. Luckily, I put $0 on any of those games, just picking them here between us. Did not put any money on that, luckily, as KU just simply took care of business against UCF. It wasn't close from Jump Street. I mean, it was, as soon as that game started, I'm like, I'm wrong. KU's winning this game. And K-State, I thought, like, they're going to figure it out. Like, they're going to get going. They're going to figure it out in this game. And it just didn't happen. And that was one of the more shocking results of the season so far is K-State. And we'll see how they now bounce back. And they are now underdogs for the first time this year at Texas Tech. They're a 1-point underdog heading to Tech this weekend. And Mizzou leading 22-7 and ending up losing by 10.
Yeah.
So outscored by 25 the rest of the way. So that's unfortunate. And they now head to Kentucky, where they are 2.5-point underdogs with a Kentucky program and a fan base that right now is starting to splinter a little bit because as good as UK has been and the fact that was their first loss to Georgia, ooh, boy, there are some people asking for Mark Stoops to be fired. And Mark Stoops on his coaching show last night talked about the reason they lost to Georgia is because of NIL, and they're buying some pretty good players. And if you guys are going to complain about that, why don't you donate to our NIL? And oh boy, it's getting interesting there in Lexington, and both teams are going to have to try to bounce back from really disappointing losses. Missouri leading LSU and feeling like it was all right there, to then bouncing back and going up and playing a tough, physical UK team, and UK trying to bounce back from getting embarrassed by Georgia when it was the buildup of let's see how close UK is. They have been stacking recruiting classes. This is sort of that year that Georgia looks gettable and Kentucky looks like they are ascending and peaking, and they got curb stomped and brought back down to earth, and people are now wondering if Mark Stoops is actually a good coach or not. So this, from a psychological standpoint, is going to be a fascinating matchup coming up this weekend. All three teams going on the road. KU trying to go to Oklahoma State, see if Oklahoma State can bounce back from, or not bounce back, but build off of what they did to K-State, and then can they make that sunflower sweep? And K-State's got to figure it out. Got to get it together, man. Figure it out, get it together. go down to Texas Tech, take care of business, get back rolling on the right track again.
Would you say that Kentucky got Kirby stomped?
I would say yes.
It was right there. It was so easy. My only real connection, I know you obviously have, I'm realizing now by the Mark Stoops thing you were able to pull from memory from last night that I'm remembering that your entire Twitter feed is littered with a lot of stuff from the region still.
Still follow a lot of them. It's just funny how splintered that's starting to become over one loss to Georgia.
Well, and so
losing to Georgia shouldn't be anything to be ashamed of.
That's my common thread from just hearing your filtration of Louisville and Kentucky fans, and then the only Kentucky fan in my life who I hear from on a regular basis being Rudy Salazar.
Does he hate Mark Stoops too?
He loves Mark Stoops, but he did text me and Lebo before the game and said, I think this is the year Kentucky gets them. I don't know why, but I think this is the year Kentucky gets them. And I just feel like I could always ask, football, basketball, are Kentucky sports fans okay? Because they seem miserable.
Dude, sports traffics and hope. And when you build up that much hope and you lose like that, it's devastating. And that's what they're going through right now. And we'll see. To the point that now Mark Stoops is telling anybody complaining, why don't you donate to our NIL?
If you're complaining, start paying.
Yep. That's why they beat us. They pay players.
That's probably the one and only reason.
That's the only reason Georgia is able to win that game. So we'll see. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Let's get into the show and start with this Chiefs team and the win against Minnesota. And I looked at this win as actually one of the best of the season for the Chiefs. I don't know what the reaction has been based on the fact that, haven't been able to listen much, trying to not talk and sleep. But the game against Detroit was a loss, but we also see what Detroit is doing now. Detroit's 4-1, and their only loss on the season is an overtime game against the Seahawks in a fun, crazy game. And, they play the Jags on the road, and the Jags have looked susceptible, and they lost to Houston by a wide margin at home as well. And they beat the Bears, dominate a bad team in Chicago. They survive the Jets, a team that we think is less than stellar. And then they go to Minnesota, and one of the things that Kevin Harlan always says, and I think it's, right about the NFL, is find the most desperate team on the field, and there's a pretty good chance you find the winner that day. Which team was most desperate on Sunday afternoon?
It's the Vikings. Their season might be over now. Yeah, absolutely.
They were 1-3 on the season. The Chiefs were coming in 4-1, or they were
entering 3-1.
Entering 3-1, coming in 1-3, 3-1, 1-3, and it had been close games. In their mind, you beat the Chiefs, you start getting back on the winning track, and you are there. You put yourself in a hole, but you can overcome that hole. You can go and you can win some games and you can make the playoffs, okay? Just simply make the playoffs and you feel like you're good enough. That was a desperate team. And the Chiefs went there, did not play their best football, but they went there and they won the game. And they made plays when they had to. And Travis Kelce was Travis Kelce in the second half when he came back in the game. And 4 receptions and 37 yards on that second drive of the second half to give them their 27 points. And a phenomenal catch on third down. Another great play on third down when Mahomes, was scrambling and got back to the line of scrimmage and thought, I'm about to get hit pretty hard. Oh, there's Travis. Found him.
Patrick Mahomes in that moment sounded like you on Sunday sound off.
That's right. Uh-oh. Only I didn't have a Kelce to throw it to. Mine was Mick Schaefer.
You think that's a downgrade?
Yes. Although Mick did have 2 healthy ankles.
That's true, but also no mustache. So
that's exactly right. Rock the stash. Come on,
Mick.
Would have been great. Aaron Ladd and Daniel Sperry picked up some of the slack that I was clearly leaving in the Sunday Sound-Off on Sunday night. But
I love the idea of me. Jason, your thoughts, but that was a good game. Daniel, what do you think, actually? Like you just throwing it away.
I thought they played well. Aaron? Jason, here's your Time's Yours question. Yes. Back to you, Mick. But I thought it was one of the best wins they've had this year. In fact, you can make a case that was the best win of the season for the Chiefs. We thought it was the Jags,
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the Bears.
No.
It was the most dominant win, but the Bears aren't any good. And it wasn't the Jets because you felt like they should have played a lot better and pulled away in that game. So to me, that was the best win. I don't care that the Vikings are 1-4. They're 1-4 with all 5 games played in 1-score games against good teams. They haven't got blown out. They haven't got beat down by a good team, even going on the road. They lost to the Eagles by a score on the road. It's a good Vikings team, and their season was on the line. And the Chiefs went there and had a 27-13 lead and just looked like the better team, methodical, businesslike, doing what you have to do to go and win that game. It's also why it gives me more of a confident feel for Thursday night's game when the Chiefs have been on this stretch of just dominating the Broncos. My son wasn't born the last time the Chiefs lost to the Broncos. He turns 8 in 3 weeks.
So good.
He doesn't know what it's like for the Chiefs to lose to the Broncos. Literally
never been alive for
in
that.
his life.
Oh, that's so funny.
And he turns 8 in 3 weeks. And these are close games. Last year, the Broncos went 5-12, and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and they were one-score games. It was a 6-point game and a 3-point game.
And some stressful moments in them, like legitimately.
Absolutely. And a play that Chris Jones had to go and make a hit on a backup quarterback to have the ball flutter in the air when the Broncos had the ball, and it ended up being an interception. Like, there were big plays that had to happen in those games against overmatched opponents in the Broncos. And a team that was the worst coach team that Sean Payton had ever seen in his life. in NFL history, it was a worst coach team. Of course, they're now themselves 1-4, with their win being a pretty decent comeback against the Chicago Bears. But it's why it gives me more confidence that the Chiefs will go out and take care of business, because they beat Minnesota 27-20. Minnesota is head and shoulders better than the Colts and the Texans were last year. Mm-hmm. And those were games where they went there and lost and then laid an egg. There is seemingly every year there's an October stinker for the Chiefs. Yep. And I don't know that that's going to happen with this team, because they are so well balanced that when the offense doesn't pick it up, the defense is good enough. And if the defense has a game where they're giving up some points, the offense goes and can score. Although the defense hasn't really had a game where they're going out and giving up a lot of points. Because they've been able to have the ball last, and except for the Vikings game, they didn't have the ball last. Didn't need to have the ball last. They sacked Kirk Cousins. The Danimal got in there. I think it's the best win of the season, and I don't think there's anything to complain about from this Chiefs win and moving on to Denver, and just simply stack up wins before you get ready for the Chargers at home in a few weeks, and then the Dolphins. And oh, by the way, this is the last week without Charles Omenihu.
Yes. Which is so, because the one thing, if you wanted to complain about something with the Vikings, the Chiefs' effort to get pressure with 4 is just an ongoing concern.
Yeah,
like the receivers are an ongoing concern, right? Yep. But Omenihu is a bigger addition than they're going to get from a receiver. I think it's a fabulous point. You had 4 days to come up with it, so I guess that should help. But I think it's
just
a great
thinking,
point.
No talking, just thinking.
Just in a dark room, your little darkness retreats. Like, I'm going to come up with a new big galaxy brain take here.
Yes, that's right.
But specifically, there's always an October stinker. Mm-hmm. Why does it feel like there won't be one this year? Because I'm with you. I was going to agree along with the fact that, they put the Bears away. And the Jets game, with a few great throws from Zach Wilson, still was a 10-point win. Patrick Mahomes decided to make a 3-point win by getting it over a minute extra early, right?
They would be 4-1 against the spread this year, the Chiefs would. 4-1 straight up and 4-1 against the spread if Patrick Mahomes doesn't slide. They're 3-2 against the spread as it is.
But 3-2, okay, you never know it. And if they're 4-1, bet them every week. It's funny how we do that.
That's right.
Small sample sizes and all. I can't drink because I got to talk.
I'll do it.
But you should.
Yes.
But the fact that the defense is at such a higher level, and is it going to finish your top 5 unit or top 10 unit? We'll see. I'm still really bullish on it. I don't regret my cannonball a couple weeks ago. But wherever they land, it is a defense that is good enough for the offense to just have 3 bad consecutive possessions. And in years past, if you have 3 bad consecutive offensive possessions, all of a sudden now you're behind the sticks, so to speak, where you're down 10.
Freudian slip right
It
there.
is, yeah, no kidding.
Behind the sick.
I'm in front of the sick.
I know.
The little cushion that you have now with the defense has to be so reassuring, as there is still growth from this offense. Week 2 offense, Week 5 offense, Week 17 offense are all going to look very different, I think. And in part because, to keep with the pool metaphor, I've cannonballed in, the defense is now strong enough of a swimmer to pick the Chiefs' offense up and hold their head above water for a few reps, which is what a good balanced team is going to give you. And I certainly think if the Chiefs' offense doesn't get right twice in the next 3 weeks, and really all 3 of the next 3 weeks,
right.
Broncos, Chargers, Broncos, that'll be a different conversation because the Broncos defense is atrocious, one of the worst ever to this point in the season. But I'm with you that viewing this as an all-around quality win for the Chiefs over the Vikings is a good way to look at it.
It's also an oddity, sort of a quirk in the schedule. I mean, we know the Chiefs, if the season were to end today, it'd be odd if it did, but they'd be the number one seed because their loss is against an NFC opponent, and Miami's loss is in division to the Buffalo Bills, so the tiebreaker there. But the Chiefs have already played 3 of their 5 NFC opponents in the first 5 weeks of the season. So,
they've played
losses
more...
the rest of the way are much more impactful.
Yes,
if
that's
they
a
lose
good
the rest
point.
of the way, they're much more impactful. So find ways to win the game. And, we'll see what Adam thinks about the Denver Broncos matchup on Thursday. I know that there are some that are like, look, it's a worrisome game. The Vikings game was concerning to me. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm being, Mike McDaniel with Chase Claypool and Icarus of, this game with the Broncos. And it's like, no matter how bad the Broncos are, they seem to be close games. I just think this Chiefs team is a little different. I think the Broncos offense is so bad and the Chiefs defense is that good that the Broncos shouldn't really score much. And the Chiefs offense against that crap defense should be able to go out there and put points on the board, even if, and I don't think it'll happen, Kelsey doesn't play. I don't think he plays on Thursday night. Even if he does not play, I think the Chiefs offense should be able to survive. We'll talk about why that is coming up on the other side of the break. 913-912-4810. We'll talk with Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs about 11:45, 11:50 or so. Braden Gall at 1:20. More Zone next. All right, Tuesday edition of The Zone. We continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll hear from Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. We will hear from the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and players today. About an hour from now, a little more than an hour from now. Braden Gall coming up at 1:20. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. The Chiefs offense, I mentioned that, going to break, I don't expect Travis Kelce to play on Thursday. He was projected what would have been a did not practice yesterday. They didn't practice, but you put out an injury report when you're on a Thursday, so did not participate yesterday. And returning to the game with the ankle injury doesn't necessarily mean to me that he's going to play. I mean, Nick Bolton returned to the Jags game with an ankle injury.
Wow, yeah, good point.
And he is, if he misses Thursday's game, they could have put him on IR and designated a return because it would have been 4 games now he would have missed. So I do think Nick Bolton is playing on Thursday night, getting back in the fold, maybe testing the ankle, and then he's got a little extra time to recover from that. So I think Nick Bolton will play, but I don't think Travis Kelce will play. I'll go ahead and say that he's not going to play, which means we probably won't see Taylor Swift on a nationally televised game. Amazon's pissed about that.
Good point.
Amazon would like to Mr. Miyagi that ankle for Travis Kelce if they could before the game. That's a Karate Kid reference there, Josh.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Jaden Smith was great.
That's exactly right. It's the one I was thinking of. It was so good. So I don't expect him to play. But then who steps up in his stead and goes and plays? Matt Nagy from yesterday. I want to talk about the wide receivers and what we've seen from this group. I know it continues to be a point of consternation for a lot of people. Here's Matt Nagy weighing in on, if there isn't Travis Kelce out there, then other guys, doing their job, but that's where the need to understand the overall offense comes in.
These players, if you're a certain position that you have to also understand that if this guy can or cannot go, you have to know those circles and spots I keep talking about, the concept, and not just that one position that you're playing right now. And I think the way that we teach this offense, it allows those guys to do that. And so with guys like Travis, there's going to be defensive coordinators that go into every game with a plan to stop Travis, and we know that. So for us, it's the first element of what we want to do with him, but then it's the second element of what's the defense going to do. And then I suppose you could say the third element of his health. So all of that is just a constant communication throughout the day of where guys are each week. And then we always are prepared with a contingency plan or a backup plan.
What stood out to me in that was if that guy can't go, then you've got to understand your role, but you got to understand the circles and spots in the offense, the concept, not just one position. And I think that's part of the whole thing is, where am I supposed to be on this play? Right. But why am I supposed to be here?
Yeah.
What's the concept of the reason I'm supposed to be here? And you've got to know all of those things, because if Kelce goes down, you might actually run a route that is designed for Kelce. We might be in 11 personnel and you run that, as opposed to that might be Kelce in 12 personnel. You've got to be ready to do that because you got to understand the circles and the spots, the concept, the why. Not just the what, but understand why we're doing this and why the circles and the spots are there for you. And I think that's a big part of, some of the chemistry, and because guys are doing different roles. Sky Moore is now doing the circles and the spots of Juju Smith-Schuster, and Justin Ross is continuing to learn a little bit more, and clearly a package-type player, as Brett Veach had mentioned, that he plays 6 snaps. 4 of those are targets for Justin Ross. Rashee Rice plays 20 snaps, and he gets 5 targets in those 20 snaps. I don't know that he's necessarily a package player, but somebody that when he's in, he's looked at more often, or I shouldn't say more often than not, that's Justin Ross, but a quarter of the time is pretty decent for you to, get a target on the snaps that you play. But that sort of understanding, and that's why I think the feeling of, it was UConn and it was Hurley in February of last year when they went through the stretch in conference when they lost 3 games in a row. And he said, well, the way we're playing right now, you better get us now because you're not going to get us in a little bit. And then the next game, they won every game from the rest of the way. They didn't lose again. You better get us now because you're not going to get us soon. I think that's the thing with the wide receivers. That right now is the way to take advantage of the Chiefs' inconsistencies on offense, because I think it's going to start getting smoother with Mahomes and these guys as they start to understand more and more, and it starts to click more and more when you're going through game action and game reps, that this thing's going to start looking pretty good. And I got a feel of the defense for Steve Spagnuolo as it goes along, that this year the defense is so good with those guys understanding the concepts, the circles, the spots where they're supposed to be, why they're supposed to be there. And I think that's going to start happening with this Chiefs offense. And even without Travis Kelce, I think the element of the wide receivers and Patrick Mahomes, that you better get them now, because as the season goes along, that defense is going to stay playing like that. And if these wide receivers start to get in sync with Patrick Mahomes, good luck.
I'm going to use this wonderful clip and your excellent point to make this about Justin Watson. I didn't want to, but I popped in my head. Now I can't not. I don't know if you saw or heard after the game. I think it came from Watson himself in the excellent little post-game scrum he had in Minnesota, where he talked about tapping 2 taps on his helmet, and I had to let him know I was going to the penthouse. Not everybody's access card swipes there. So good, such a bar. But also, Justin Watson was going to play tight end in 13 personnel when they needed it, and the circles and spots thing from Matt Nagy there. That's why. That's why Justin Watson plays the number of snaps that he does. That's why Patrick Mahomes goes to him a few times a game. That's why it's not an offense built around Justin Watson. It's not the 6 snaps, 4 targets, 2 catches for Justin Ross. It's not 25% of the snaps you get targeted on for Rashee Rice, or even Kadarius Toney ended up, I think, close to that ratio as well. Mm-hmm. It's, hey, get to the circles and spots, understanding why you're in them. Very, very frequently for MVS and Justin Watson, I wonder about this for Sky Moore. I'm not as confident. But for MVS and Justin Watson, a lot of the circles and spots, you are there for a reason that is not to catch the football, or certainly at least not to be the primary read. I don't think that absolves everybody of how the offense has gone, specifically the usage of MVS. I'm starting to ask a lot of questions that I remember we were kicking around a little bit last year, and now I'm like kicking them around a little harder, going, hey, what's the plan here? But ultimately, that circles and spots thing is something that's going to stick in my head the rest of the year. 'Cause I don't remember hearing a coach use that phrasing.
No, that's why it stood out to me, is the people knowing the circles and spots of not just your position, but the concept of the play.
And that's why it's bigger than option routes or reading this and now it's that. It is a feel thing. It's also why I'm really optimistic about Rashee Rice, because he seems to be better at the circles and spots than a lot of young guys. And he had a mistake on the circles and spots thing against Minnesota too. Yep. Please, 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 please let Rashee Rice run until he pukes again. Let him get those reps and let him find the spots and miss the spots, because he's got it. It seems to me like he's the guy that can take that jump. But man, a great little snippet into the Chiefs' offensive philosophical needs there.
If you were to guess, I'm going to ask Adam Teicher this in the 11 o'clock hour. Travis Kelce is put aside. Okay. He can't be an answer. After Travis Kelce, who leads the wide receivers in targets the rest of the way? Final 12 games.
In targets?
Targets. Just targets. The rest of the way.
I think I would go Rashee Rice.
Me too.
I think I would.
Dylan?
Me as well.
Rashee Rice?
I think Dylan remembered the ZOUs yesterday. I don't remember what they actually were, but I think was your memory, Dylan, that you had taken Rashee Rice in the receiver question?
I think so. Either me or Mick.
Okay,
was remembering that.
Oh, look it up
so,
right now.
I don't know. I don't know if we can have a scoreboard update or not. I don't want to. I'm pretty sure I ended up on either Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore, depending on when we did them in relation to Kadarius. I think if it was after Toney got hurt, it would have been Sky, and I would have said Toney before that injury.
We'll do a quarter of the way through the season update on Friday.
It was okay.
I guess that's even more because it would have to be after Denver too. So
yeah, you're right.
Even more.
But a little 6-game update.
So
that'll be
a
great.
third of the way through the season.
We can see where we're at there. That'll be fun. But I think at this point it almost has to be Rashee Rice, because Sky Moore is getting way more work and doing way less with it. MVS is getting way more work and doing way less with it. Mm-hmm. But at least it's in character for like his archetype, This isn't what was supposed to be happening with Sky Moore. Justin Watson's not going to lead the team in targets. And Tony's going to miss some time at some point probably, and he's getting used kind of sparingly right now, which if that's to get him to play 75% of the snaps in December, I'm honestly cool with, because I still think he's the most explosive option. But yeah, I think it's got to be Rashee Rice, which is crazy to say about a receiver who played 30% of the offensive snaps on Sunday.
Right. Mick had Rashee Rice. The rest of us had Sky Moore.
Oh!
So stupid.
Well, this was in yards for...
This was who leads wide receivers in yards.
Yards.
Yeah. The yards, targets, receptions, either way, Sky Moore is trailing right now.
Yeah.
He is trailing. I think, and this is what I'm curious to see. You know, we talked about going into the Lions game that it's like, you know, I don't...
Sorry, right now, the Chiefs' leading wide receiver by yards is still Justin
Watson. Yeah,
he's 3 yards behind Travis Kelce. He has an extra game, of course. But anyway, I digress.
It is Justin Watson who led the team in receiving yards yesterday, and oddly enough, they are after Kelce, and the guy who led the team in receptions after Kelce was Kadarius Toney, which is a little surprising. 5 receptions, only 26 yards.
Some tough yards, too,
especially for a guy who's a playmaker like that. He got over the 20.5 total rushing and receiving. That's all that mattered.
I told you he was raising the roof on Friday, and I'm glad he did. Otherwise, I was going to take a brief retirement.
Yeah, the 60.5 for Pacheco ending up with 57 was a tough one. The third time in Pacheco's career out of 16 games in which he got more than 10 carries and averaged fewer than 4 yards per carry.
You had the math on this one.
Yeah, I felt good.
16. So.
If you told me he was going to carry the ball 16 times, I would have taken an alternate rushing yards to like 75, not 57. But anyway, I digress. Going into that Lions game, we're like, you know what? I'm kind of curious. I don't want Travis Kelce to miss the game, but I'm kind of curious to see what it would look like.
Me too.
What does this offense look like with Travis Kelce? Coming out of that game, we're like, you know what? I don't want to see what the offense looks like with Travis Kelce moving forward.
Yep.
They have had 4 games since then. I'm curious as to what the offense would look like without Travis Kelce. They did score on the drive coming out of halftime when Kelce was not in the game. And I don't think it's a coincidence that on that specific drive, Rashee Rice got 3 of his 5 targets. It was the comeback catch when it wasn't right to him and he had to reach over, caught it. You know, that wasn't whether he was in the wrong spot or circle or Mahomes just threw it a little bit behind him. Either way, that's a catch that Rashee Rice wasn't making. There was the 1st and goal from the 9, the target to Rashee Rice where he stopped running. That was, miscommunication where he's got to be better at it. He's got to keep running through that contact because Mahomes put it to where Rashee Rice could have made a tough catch, but you know what? That's what he's there to do. Big-bodied guy, make a tough catch. Oddly enough, 2nd and goal, they went to Justin Ross. And then 3rd and goal at the 9, he went to Rashee Rice. To me, that was the first read, too. Yep. He took the 3-step drop and then, boom, hit him because, by the way, he was the only one open. Yep. Everybody else was covered. Watching the All-22, if Mahomes doesn't hit Rice right there, they're kicking a field goal. Unless Mahomes becomes magical Mahomes and runs around and creates it himself. Right. And does some things that then colors outside the lines, so therefore now it's just artistic. I wanted to express myself in a way that, and that's why I colored outside the lines. Well, it's a cool coloring outside the lines. You did a great job. And I know that you're supposed to color inside the lines, but you express yourself the way that you need to. But Rashee Rice won. Yep. And he fired it. It was a hands catch with a guy right on his back, took the hit, fell in the end zone. 3 of the targets on that drive went to Rashee Rice. I don't think that's coincidental. I think as the games go on, I think that's going to be more often than not. That's where I say you better get him now. Because I think Rashee Rice is ready for a breakout game. I think there's a breakout game coming for Rashee Rice. And if you're in fantasy football and he's sitting out there, if you're in a more of a shallow league and Rashee Rice is available, I'd go and pick him up now. Because I think he's going to grow into the Travis Kelce, then Rashee Rice, the rest of the way.
I think I'm with you on that. I certainly want that to be true, so I'm kind of catching myself. Yeah. But here's the other thing. I don't know about the other receptions for Rice on the day. I haven't checked. But the touchdown, Vikings were in man. And that's been the question for Rashee Rice is, okay.
And nobody else won in man.
He's got some feel in the zones. He can be a floater, feeling out the defense. Like, this is something he was good at in college. He's been good at here so far. All right, good to see. But can he win against man? And he did on that touchdown rep. He absolutely won on man coverage, and you can see the glimmer there. I think I agree with you, in part because I don't know who else it would be, and in part because I really do think Rashee Rice has the goods to be that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The drive before the 2-minute warning, it was 2nd and 6, and Rashee Rice had the 8-yard catch for a first down, and then Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon for 3 yards, and then they ended up punting, and that's when the Vikings got the ball back. I'm trying to find the 5th target, because that's 4 of them. There's 3 on that drive, and then the 4 targets on that drive. No, there were 3 targets. That 4th one, and then whatever the 5th catch was somewhere along the way. But either way,
the last offensive. Is that the one? That's what you just
mentioned.
That
was the 8-yard
catch. That was
the
8.
Either way, but it's the first game this season where Rashee Rice has had a ball hit his hand and he hadn't dropped it.
Yeah.
He was 4 for 4 in catching the footballs that touch his body.
Second, right before the end of the first quarter, Mahomes 2nd and 9 after Justin Ross went up and over for the first down.
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a thundering 1-yard rush, and then 2nd and 9, Mahomes bought some time and had some time and went to Rice for 5. So
cool. There you go.
They converted on the screen to McKinnon on that.
But 4 for 4 on footballs that he touched, that he caught, and a couple of them were tough catches. So that's good. And we'll see moving forward. But I think it's going to be Rashee Rice. It is just interesting that his percentage dropped in this game of routes run, that he went from 51% to 46% and dropped to 30%. Not sure, but I think that's got to go up on Thursday night. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we'll talk with Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. Chiefs pressers after that.
You've been gone, Jason. Your voice has been gone, more importantly.
That's been gone, yes.
But I haven't yet gotten to hear what it was like in the Anderson household when Travis Kelce goes to the ground non-contact and then reemerges like a cartoon character in the second half in full pads. What was the gamut of emotions? We talked about that for like an hour yesterday.
Let me just tell you, when he went down, and before the replays and everything, when he went down and immediately looked back behind him, I thought he just blew his Achilles. He just blew his Achilles. Because that is the reaction. Anybody that's had an Achilles tear says it feels like somebody kicked you in the back of the leg. So you turn, like Tre'Davious White a couple of weeks ago. When he pushed off and his Achilles popped, he immediately looked behind him. And then he started limping and then he went to the ground. It is a natural reaction because of that feel. They say feels like somebody is kicking you in the back of the leg. So you immediately look behind you. And when Kelce slipped and fell and, blew the tire and immediately looked behind him, I went, oh my God. Then they showed the replay. Well, then he got up and started walking and everything, and it was
fighting for the ball, trying to get the yard again, or whatever.
Yeah,
that gave me the heebie-jeebies, man.
That was like when he got up and walked. And I know that you can walk with an Achilles. We've seen that. Kobe Bryant took free throws, but the way he was walking was not an immediate like, all right, I'm sitting here and oh my God, I'm taking my helmet off. Like, was it Eric Berry or Derek Johnson that took his gloves off on the field?
Oh wow, I forgot about that.
When they tore his Achilles.
I mean, obviously they both did.
Yeah, one of the two just sat there, took his helmet off, and then just took his gloves off.
I think that might have been Eric Berry.
And you went, that's the season. That's the season. And he knows
take his helmet off.
And he knows it. He's done. The gloves came off, and not in the way that fighting. But the fact that he got up as quick as he did and was walking, I was like, okay, so it's not that. Then when he was limping so badly and threw his helmet down, and they went for x-rays, I thought, is this like a Liz Frank? Is this like a bone or something in there that it's going to be like 3 months and hopefully return for the playoffs? And then it was like, sprained ankle. I'm like, oh, he's good. He's good. Even if he has to miss the rest of this game and miss the Broncos, I'll settle out of court right now for that. Yeah, we've had a couple of scares with Travis Kelce. Stop it, T. Kels.
The Zone is brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, welcome back here in The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, and Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. We are talking some Chiefs football with our Chiefs insider, Adam Teicher from ESPN, joining us. Adam, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Good, Jason. How are you doing today?
A little bit better. Voice is better than what it was yesterday. Still not totally there. So, less of me, more of everybody else is not a bad thing, certainly. It has been a lot more defense this year we've seen from the Chiefs. Let's just start with that Vikings game in general. What was your takeaway? What did you see in that game, that win, number 4 for the Chiefs this year?
Well, I mean, it wasn't spectacular, but in general, I thought it was a good win. It's a good road win. It was loud in there. I mean, there were a lot of Chiefs fans, but there were a lot of Vikings fans, and they were making some noise. So that was a tough environment, and the Chiefs, they got it done. I got done working after the game, a couple hours after the game, and just happened to be leaving at the same time. I was one of the guys I know from that covers the Vikings up in Minnesota, and we were walking out of the place, and he was asking me, what kind of win do you see this being for the Chiefs? Was this just sort of a, just a grind it out, just get it done win, and I just over a team that's not very good? And I'm like, no, I really think that this is a win that we're going to look back on later on maybe and say, hey, that was a really good win for the Chiefs. I feel like the Vikings aren't as bad as maybe 1-4, and they've got some guys who can beat you, and certainly not having Justin Jefferson there at the end was a maybe hurt the Vikings, but the Chiefs have done such a good job on him that maybe not. So I just feel like that was a good win. That's if the game had been played at Arrowhead, then maybe you have more to pick on. But on the road against a team that's probably better than its record, I think that was a good win for the Chiefs.
I always try to keep perspective when we're talking about this team that last year, this is a team that went to Indy and Houston, and they went 1-1 in those games, and the win was in overtime. I mean, going to Minnesota, a team that, was the number 1 seed last year, and, found ways to win close games. And we talk about that of a sort of a regression to the mean in football. And don't be in 1-score games, and, you'll win a lot more than you lose. And this year, they are 1-4 on the season and 1-4 in 1-score games. That, that is still a good team. I don't think the record for the Vikings indicates the type of team they are this year. So I think that was a really good win for the Chiefs. It was a game, quite frankly, Adam, that scared me. We were talking about it on Friday on the show, and I'm like, I got a bad feeling about this game because, we've seen the Chiefs do some of these things against lesser teams on the road, playing some good football. And then they go there and they sort of lay a stinker in October, somewhere along the lines. And that wasn't the case in that game. They found a way to pull it out, even though they didn't play their best football. So the perspective I continue to bring up is, they lost to the Colts and they beat the Texans in overtime last year, and the Vikings are head and shoulders better than those two teams were a year ago.
Yeah, so I just think this is the kind of game you have to win on the road. It's maybe not a great opponent, but, still did enough good things to get it done. And I don't know what you could tell on TV. That was a difficult environment. It was getting pretty loud in that building. The Chiefs did what they had to do, and certainly I think we're going to be looking back at that game again in a couple months and saying, wow, that was a big one.
Well, and you know what? One other thing to this, and we'll talk about some of the particulars and even look ahead to the Broncos game a little bit, but, Kevin Harlan, one of the things he said a long time ago when I, first started listening to Kevin Harlan do interviews and things like that, so, a while ago, he had said, in the NFL in his time doing that, looking around, he's like, find the most desperate team that Sunday, and more than likely you're going to find the winner. Talent-wise and everything like that, but the NFL is such a week-to-week league that if you've got one team that's desperate and hungry for a win and one team that's just going along and playing good football, a pretty good chance you're going to find the winner there. And the Vikings were the more desperate team. Not that the Chiefs didn't have a sense of urgency or anything, but the Vikings were 1-3. And the way the Lions are playing, you can't start 1-4. And I think they looked at that, and it was, another week in the NFL, and they want to beat the Chiefs, obviously. But I think you can make a pretty strong case that going into that game, the more desperate team was the Minnesota Vikings, and the Chiefs went there and won the game in that environment. So I found it to be a really good victory just because I didn't think it was going to be 37-13 or 37-20 or anything like that. Like I thought it was going to be the Jets. I picked it 27-24 final, and it was almost that, but that's kind of the game that I expected. That it would come down to the end. The Chiefs would have to make a play or two here or there to find a way to win that one, and it's a good Vikings team. So I actually think it's one of the better wins they've had this year is on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think there's, the old, what's the cliche, you don't never have to apologize for victory.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what this one was. I mean, was it a perfect game? No, but not by any stretch. But they did enough to win against a pretty good team. And I think that's all you can ask for against a team going on the road.
Yep. Adam Teich is our guest. He's presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you, available at an awesome price. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Are you in, or have they sent you a memo or anything, the NFL, on the mandate to make sure the Chiefs win, and the officials and everything? Because obviously after week one, Adam, since the league got pretty upset at the officials for flagging the Chiefs in the final drive, that they wanted to make sure that the Chiefs ended up winning the rest of the games. Are you in? Did they send you a memo to sort of just go along with it, that the officials are making sure the Chiefs win all these games?
Yeah, you remember all those years when the Patriots were winning, the officials were making sure the Patriots won?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Remember that? I mean,
yeah.
So I guess history's repeating itself here.
That's right.
I don't know. I think it's a really hard game to officiate, and they're not going to get everything right, and you just kind of have to go in knowing that, and you don't want to miss a blatant call or call something that didn't happen, but sometimes it's going to be a judgment call, and it goes. The Chiefs have had plenty to complain about this year with the refereeing, and they've had some things maybe go their way, but I just don't see it as any kind of conspiracy or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it is, Adam. You're just missing it. I mean, you're blind.
I guess so.
You just don't see what's going on. You take the blinders off, Adam. You're drinking the Kool-Aid, and it's pretty clear that the NFL is out to get the Chiefs. But on a serious note, though, they did flag Travis Kelce in Jacksonville for taking his helmet off, so that has happened. And, Jerry Jeudy for the Broncos rips his helmet off, screamed and yelled at the official, bumped the official, and there was no flag. So, I mean, it's a subjective game. It's not a hard and fast rule that, okay, if if the ball crosses the goal line, then we know it's a touchdown or not. Like that is a objective viewpoint. But taking your helmet off can be subjective in terms of the way the official, adjudicates that. And Jerry Jeudy, if he did not get a flag for bumping the official and taking his helmet off, then I think we can pretty much assume that it's not a no matter what if you take your helmet off. Plus, it was between possessions, and L'Jarius Sneed looked like he was just trying to talk to the official. I thought it was going to be a 15-yard penalty, but in the end, it was still going to be the Chiefs' ball. That's the part that I think it's like they bailed the Chiefs out by giving them 12 yards. I mean, it was half the distance to the goal. They would have started at 12 instead of the 24. Maybe everything plays out the exact same, and they throw that ball from 12 yards closer to the end zone or whatever on fourth down, and what would have been 4th and 12. But I mean, it's not like the Vikings would have been given a new set of downs or anything.
Yeah, and they would have started, theoretically 15 yards better in terms of field position when they got the ball back there at the end. But Chiefs still made the stop at the end, so I just don't know what the huge complaint. I don't see that as a something that tipped the game in the Chiefs' favor or anything like that. And going back to your original point, it would be nice if all these things were uniformly called. That every time, there was a certain threshold, and once you get past that with, your helmet off, that you get penalized. But it's not. I mean, it's going to be that penalty is always going to be somewhat subjective, and it wasn't called against the Chiefs, but that didn't have really a bearing on the outcome, I don't think.
I just love the moving goalposts in the Super Bowl, and against the Jets, you can't make that call late in the game. You got to let them play. And against the Vikings, it was obvious pass interference, and how do you not call that? So it's just fun, the back and forth. Here's the thing, though. I said this last Monday, Adam, and it still holds true, and it will continue to hold true, that if you asked any Chiefs fan or anybody else, that is around the Chiefs in 2017 draft day, if you say, hey, the Chiefs are about to draft somebody, and for the next 5 to maybe 10 years, we'll see, they're going to be a hated franchise. They're going to win 2 Super Bowls. They're going to go to 3 over a 4-game span. They're going to go to the AFC Championship game and host it for 5 straight years. The quarterback's going to be Super Bowl MVP twice. He's going to be league MVP twice in his 6th season. But in that 6th year, the rest of the fan base and even some people in the media are going to hate your team. They're going to think the NFL is rigging it for you, and they're going to say that you have some victories that are not earned, that you were gifted some victories. Will you take that deal, or you can continue with Alex Smith and the play you're having right now? I think it's a pretty easy decision.
Yeah, I don't think you have to think very long about that one.
So I think you're fine. Adam Teicher is our guest from Twin Peaks, is presenting Adam Teicher. He's from ESPN, our Chiefs insider. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame is going to honor Derek Thomas on Thursday. They're going to give him a ring. It's going to be in the Ring of Honor or the Chiefs Hall of Fame there. What all is going on with this? I read about this morning, that DT is going to be honored on Thursday.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot on it, but I did know that they're giving him some kind of honor, an excellence honor or something like that. The Hall of Fame is so nice touch. I mean, he's already in, obviously. Derek Thomas is, but just kind of a nice touch to honor him at a primetime game at Arrowhead Stadium.
I don't know, is it because of the Broncos that it's primetime at Arrowhead? I don't know. Because the Lions primetime at Arrowhead was, the banner, and they didn't want to do that. I don't know, but it's still pretty cool. Yeah. And Adam, it got me thinking, we asked this question a few weeks ago, and I forgot to ask you when we were having a discussion there in the show, not necessarily me and you, but because Derek Thomas is being honored, it got me thinking again. Is Chris Jones the best Chiefs defender since Derek Thomas?
Wow. Derek Johnson was a good player.
Yeah, that's
for
the
a
one
long
that comes
period
up
of
immediately
time,
with a lot of people, yeah.
But Chris Jones is he's a difference maker. I mean, he's that good. And, he's playing so well right now. I would say you'd have to go with Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Yes, I knew Derek Johnson was a very good player, and the Chiefs had some other, Eric Berry and Justin Houston and guys like that, and Tamba did it for a long time. But you're talking about a difference maker. You really have to go with Chris Jones. Yeah,
just a game wrecker. Those guys were good players and some of the best in Chiefs history, but just a guy that wrecks a game, and the entire offense is like, where's that guy at? I mean, they were like, where's 58? And where's 95? Like that's the way that they're approaching it. And it's fun to watch what Chris Jones is doing right now. Last one for you, Adam, then we'll take a break and we'll switch sides of the football and look at the Chiefs offense and some other things, and then look ahead of the Denver Broncos game. But the red zone this year for the Chiefs, Andy Reid was talking during training camp about how some of those lanes were smaller and the space down inside the red zone and the end zone and things like that, it was more difficult for the offense. And Steve Spagnuolo talked about in the offseason that this was an emphasis is on the red zone. It's one thing to say that. You can practice it because Steve Spagnuolo last year kept talking about, we're practicing it. We're working on red zone. We're working on red zone. We're working on red zone. They were 31st in the NFL in red zone efficiency last year. I mean, they were giving up more than 2/3 of every trip to the red zone was a touchdown. I mean, it was pretty brutal last year. They couldn't get stops. This year, it's 15 trips to the red zone, 7 touchdowns for the opposing team. It's only 46%. It's 8th best in the NFL. Is there anything in particular? Is it just they are focusing more on it and maybe it was more lip service? Is it the players? Is it scheme? Maybe it's the opponent. I don't know. But any particular reason or what you can put your finger on as to why it's been so night and day in 5 games this year versus what it was, essentially week in and week out last year?
Yeah, last year it was like an 80-yard field, right? I mean, once the opponent got inside the 20, it was a touchdown. I mean, it was like an automatic thing.
It's like the Royals in the mid-2000 teens when they won the World Series. It was a 6-inning game. If you didn't have a lead in 6 innings, their bullpen came, and it's an 80-yard field. I love that. That's exactly what it was last year.
Yeah, no, and I can't. There's nothing I can point to that would say, well, this is the difference between this year and last year. They're playing better defense all over the field as opposed to just in the red zone this year, and that certainly can be a factor. But no doubt about it, it's a big reason why they're 4-1 this year. If they were playing red zone defense like they were last year, things might be different.
Yeah, and third down defense is a little bit better. So it's like I wanted to look at the third down defense and percentages against and things like that just to see, how close it was to a year ago. Was it as stark? And it's better. I mean, they gave up 38.3% of conversion rate on third down last year, which was 15th best. This year is 35.4, so about 3 percentage points better. It's 9th best in the league, but it's not as stark as 31st to 8th. It's 15th to 9th. It's a little bit better, third down defense. So they are getting off the field at a better clip than they were a year ago, but not to the degree that they are buckling down. And that's the thing about it's not a bend but don't break defense either. Like it's a don't break defense, and then in the red zone, it's also a don't break defense. They aren't just giving up a bunch of yards and then locking down and forcing field goals. It's been, overall what this defense is performing and how they're performing. And, they're getting off the field on third down at a better clip, and they're stopping them in the red zone as well. So I didn't know what the third down percentage would look like. I'm a little surprised it's that close because it feels like they're doing a much better job of getting off the field.
Yeah, and, I think one factor you can look at is that they're so versatile in the secondary. They can do so many different things. It's not just that guys are playing well. It's that guys are playing well and they can do different things with them, mix some things up. So maybe if you're looking at any one thing, that's what you'd go with because, right now it's not just that the Chiefs are getting the job done in the secondary. It's that they're mixing things up and moving some guys around and still getting the job done. They can really throw some different looks at people and maybe match up week to week in a different way and still get the job done.
Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN, he's presented by Twin Peaks. Yeah, I guess when the field is shortened there inside the red zone, inside the 10-yard line, and they only have a little bit limited amount of space to work with, and you're able to put pressure on the quarterback and bring some blitzes and trust your secondary, then yeah, it makes a difference. And that Jacksonville game, Adam, is a perfect example. Were there 3 touchdowns in the back of the end zone that were just out of the back of the end zone that resulted in field goals because of the way the Chiefs cornerbacks, secondary safeties were playing that as the 12th defender, that back end line of the end zone. It makes it a little more difficult when you're there. They weren't doing it a year ago, and I think this also weighs into some of that continuity. Is that Steve Spagnuolo was talking about some communication issues that were there, some guys that weren't on the same page, and you and I talked about that there were some times where the defense wasn't ready, that the snap goes on and the guys are still scrambling, trying to figure out where they're supposed to be, and an easy touchdown. I don't think we've seen that one time this year, that the defense is caught off guard and they snap the ball and then everybody's sort of scrambling to try to get in place.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but you're right. Now that I do think about it, I do feel like we've seen that a lot less this season than we have in past years. So, yeah, it looks like things are getting cleaned up in that regard as well.
Adam Teicher, presented by Twin Peaks, and we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling, talking with Adam Teicher, Chiefs insider from ESPN. We'll get his thoughts on the offensive side of the football and look ahead to the Denver Broncos coming up on Thursday night. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Adam Teicher is our guest from ESPN. He's presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you. Available at an awesome price. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Adam Teicher is with us. Adam, let's look at the offensive side of the football for this Chiefs team heading into week number 6. It's been this side of the football that has been the most discussed in terms of concerns. How would you characterize this Chiefs offense through 5 weeks so far?
Inconsistent. You know, we've had some great moments. I mean, there was that stretch of, against the Bears. Again, this was when before Mahomes came out of the game against the Bears, but they had that stretch of 7 straight possessions at the end of the Bears game, and then the 3 to start the Jets game. So 10 straight possessions where they scored. I mean, that's traumatic stuff, and they've been able to get some other good things done for stretches, but it just hasn't been there week in and week out and consistently during a game other than maybe against Chicago. So I'm looking for this thing to look more in terms of consistency like it has in the past.
Are we needing to change our view moving forward with this offense, or is this just a slower start? Like, we look at this offense and it's compared to previous Patrick Mahomes-led offenses. Is that fair to this offense to always hold it to that standard when, it's one of the best and if not the best every single year?
Well, yeah, I don't think this team's going to lead the league in scoring. I don't think we're going to have – it's going to be that kind of output from them. They can still be really good, and they're still going to have their moments. But my sense is it's going to be more like what we've seen this year, that they'll maybe do enough to get the job done, but just not the dynamic, high-scoring machine that we've known it to be the last few years.
Is it just simply what we look at that, get more and more used to the wide receivers, that this is what it's going to be, that as the wide receiver chemistry sort of picks up, that, in this game, Mahomes was 31 of 41 with almost 300 yards. He had a 109.9 quarterback rating that, as that progresses, it looked like they were much more in sync early in the game and spreading the ball around and looked like they were in a rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, the reason, he didn't have a ton of yards given his completions was he was getting rid of the ball quickly. I mean, the Vikings were coming after him. And so he was having to get rid of the ball quickly, and they did a nice job with the blitz. I thought that was one of the big reasons they were able to get done what they did, and one of the big reasons they were able to win is they handled the Minnesota blitz, I thought, for the most part, pretty well. So there's that, and but I think there's places for growth as you're looking, down into the second half of the season. The Chiefs have gotten almost nothing from Kadarius Toney yet this year, and I see that changing. I don't know that he's going to be a huge producer, but I do think there'll be some big games and big moments from him. And in terms of Rashee Rice, I mean, I think there's reason to expect that he'll give the Chiefs even more as the season goes on. So I think there's room for growth there, and I think it's reasonable to expect that they'll get it too.
Who would you put as the number one target leader the rest of the way? The final 12 games of the season for this Chiefs team. Who leads the after Travis Kelce from wide receivers? After Kelce, who leads the team in targets? You think?
I would have told you a month ago. I would have told you Sky Moore, but it's just not happening with him, and I don't know that it's going to happen. I don't know why. If he's going to break out, what's going to change between now and then? I don't see that happening. So I will go with Rashee Rice. Tony's just not consistent enough to be that guy, and we know that MVS is not a high volume guy. And he's never been in his career, and I don't know why that would change now. And I don't see Justin Watson necessarily. He's more of a big play guy. I see those guys kind of similarly in that regard. So I think it's going to be Rashee Rice. Seren has been on his case since the start, since training camp, and I didn't see it. But now I think he's going to be right, that Rice is going to end up leading the Chiefs at least at wide receiver in terms of catches. So I think that's he's going to have to play big if the Chiefs are going to get where they want to go, I think.
Yeah, and Rice is my pick as well. That I think he's close to a breakout game. I think it's coming sometime soon. I don't know if it'll happen against the Broncos, but It's a number of games where he's getting 4, 5, 6 targets in a game and ending up with 4 and 5 receptions. And I think it's indicative of, this Chiefs team and maybe Patrick Mahomes with Rashee Rice that, when they scored that touchdown coming out of the break, when it was tied 13-13, second down and 7, he goes to Rashee Rice, and Rice had to make a tough catch. That was a drive where Travis Kelce wasn't on the field. Rice had to make a tough catch, came back, reached to his left. Those are passes that he has dropped. Obviously Justin Watson made a huge play on 3rd and 18 to go up and just snatch the ball in the air, and one of the biggest plays of the entire game, and then dragging the feet on the sideline as well. Justin Watson made some big plays, but down inside the red zone in 1st and goal, 2 of the 3 throws were to Rashee Rice. And the second one was the touchdown. And so without Travis Kelce on the field, and they were running man, were the Vikings, and it was about, Rashee Rice winning. And on 1st and goal from the 9, he threw it to Rashee Rice. Rice stopped his route, and it might have been a touchdown on 1st down if he doesn't stop his route. That's something he still has to get better at is those things. But on 3rd down and 9 from 3rd and goal from the 9, it was, 3-step drop, fire the football to Rashee Rice, running a slant, who was the only guy that was even, somewhat open. And Rice made the catch between 2 defenders and took the hit and got in the end zone. And I think there's something to that on that drive, without Kelce in the game, 2 of the 3 throws were to Rashee Rice.
No, I don't think there's any doubt, that Rice was the MVP of that drive to start the second half. And, the one thing he's got to do, and he did this well in Minnesota, is catch the ball. I mean, we know that's been a problem for him at times in the first few games. So, Justin Ross was that guy dropping the ball in Minnesota. So he's Rice has to be more consistent that way. But if he is, he'll definitely. I think there's no doubt he'll be the main guy.
I think it's the first game this year that every ball that hit his hand he caught. So I mean, it's a step in the right direction for Rashee Rice. Of course, the only target that went his way, it looked like it was a miscommunication, and he stopped his route. And Mahomes threw it to where it looked like Rashee Rice would have been able to make a difficult catch, but he's certainly skilled like that. What did you see from Justin Ross? I thought it interesting that those 2 guys specifically, Rashee Rice played 20 plays and got 5 targets, and Justin Ross was in the game for 6 plays and got 4 targets. Like, when he was in the game, Mahomes was looking at his way, and the same thing with Rashee Rice. What do you make of that? The usage for Justin Ross, 6 reps and 4 targets. He did have 2 drops, but 4 targets, 2 catches.
Yeah, and those, particularly that first catch, that's the kind of thing he's going to do well at this point. You can throw the ball up there and he's going to go get it and get those, one-on-one matchups against a smaller corner on the outside. I think that's, that's where he's going to excel, at least right now. He's just got to do a better job catching the ball. But, yeah, it was interesting. It's like, hey, Justin, go in the game, and we're coming to you, so be ready to go. That was interesting that he didn't play a lot, but the ball was certainly coming his way when he was.
Visiting with Adam Teicher. He's presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Chiefs and Broncos coming up on Thursday night. Chiefs favored by double digits in this game. Not a surprise. The Broncos sitting at 1-4 on the season with their lone victory coming a week ago against the Chicago Bears, in which they were trailing and made a pretty sizable comeback, but they just lost to the Jets at home last week. What do you make of this matchup? Is this game, you think, going to end up as lopsided as certainly it seems on paper, the way that these 2 teams are playing?
No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be a close game.
Okay.
A lot of the Chiefs-Broncos game, the Chiefs have won, 15 in a row now against Denver, but there have been a lot of close games, and there were some games that could have really gone the other way. So I think the Broncos are another team like the Vikings that are a little bit better than their record. I mean, they had that one horrible game in Miami. And, they've had some other games they probably should have won. They should have beat the Raiders. They could have won the game last week against the Jets. So, they could have beat Washington certainly earlier in the year. So I think they're closer than what the record looks like. So I'm expecting a pretty good game. I'll take the Chiefs 27-23, something like that. Yeah, I do think the Chiefs will win, but a lot of it might depend on Travis Kelce and whether he's able to play and how effective he can be. One thing we haven't talked about, Jason, is what a remarkable game he had. I think that's. I tweeted this after he caught that touchdown. Given everything that happened, this might be the most remarkable game of his Chiefs career. He's had some big moments and some big plays, but and some big games. But given what he was dealing with there, I think this was really remarkable. And I know some people living in Kansas City. Maybe we know this better than other people outside of Kansas City. But even at that, I think there's some people who sort of think that Travis Kelce's more about the show business part of things. And, they see him doing a dating show and they see him doing his podcast and they see him with Taylor Swift and think he's more about the trappings of the job and not about the job itself. Well, I think we really got a peek into how important football is to him the other day because he was hurting. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And for him to make that third down catch and plus those other plays on that touchdown drive in the second half was really amazing. So just truly remarkable from him. And, anybody who would ever doubt what Travis Kelce's about, I think that game ended all doubt.
Yeah, he had on that drive, because he missed the first drive of the second half, and they scored with Rashee Rice, as we just talked about. But that drive, they're up 20-13, and Kelce comes back in the game for that drive, and he makes, two different third down catches. 3rd and 3, he makes that 14-yard grab, jumping up and catching it that, was ruled down by contact. And then the 3rd and 8 play where Mahomes – was running and got back to the line of scrimmage, and I think he said, "Oh, I'm about to get hit," and then he finds Kelce, and Kelce runs for the first down, picks up 11 yards, and then a couple plays later scores the touchdown. I mean, the guy was out of the game, looked like he was going to be missing for a while. He went for X-rays. That was a concern. I didn't know if it was a sprained ankle or like a Liz Frank or something going on with a bone in there, which was worrisome. Yeah. But he comes back in the game, and 37 of his 67 yards on the day were on that drive. And 2 of them on big third downs. Like he showed the value that he brings to the team and also the toughness that I don't think was questioned, but I think it's a great point of the show business. Sometimes you can look at a guy as sort of soft and he's all about the flash. There's a lot of sizzle, but there's not much steak. Kelce has always, had that stake and has wanted to play and has fought through different injuries and stayed out there. I think that's part of his game maybe nationally that he doesn't get enough credit for.
Yeah, I think that's the part that gets lost by all this other stuff. The Taylor Swift, the dating show, the podcast, all that other stuff is how important football is to him and how much this means to him. And this was a really good look at exactly, where he stands with that.
Yeah, Aaron Borgman that used to work with the Chiefs and, one of the trainers said that earlier this year when he was on the Border Patrol said that Travis Kelce is one of the toughest people he's ever been around in his life. And he's like, there's no doubting that guy, if he's hurting, he'll do what he can to play. He's like, he's one of the toughest people I've ever been around. So that was interesting to hear.
And it's not just the toughness. It's when he makes a mistake, it eats him up.
Yeah, right.
I remember there was a game. You remember it was the game that became more famous as the victory lap game when the Raiders came in a few years ago and they beat the Chiefs. He ran the Chiefs were down by a touchdown late in the game, and he ran he adjusted his route when he shouldn't have. Mahomes threw the ball where he was supposed to be, and the ball was intercepted. And the Raiders ended up winning the game. He was down on himself for weeks after that for what he did, and he felt like he was completely to blame for the Chiefs losing that game, and people don't see that side of him, and that's something that I think is really an underappreciated asset is how important this really is to him, how much it means to him.
Yeah, and that was so interesting because it was the COVID year, so we didn't get to talk to people, and I think it was 3 weeks later the first time we got to talk to Travis Kelce, and at that first time, he brought it up unprompted. Like, he wasn't asked about that. He brought it up about the Raiders game. It was his fault. It was like 3 weeks later when we finally got to hear from Kelce, and it had been it had been eating at him that it was like, no, I want to make sure people know that interception was my fault. I had a choice to go either over the line, over the top of the linebacker or across his face, and I went over the top, which then brought the safety over to me. Instead of crossing the face, the safety wouldn't have filled that spot, and the safety intercepts it because I was in the wrong place. That was my fault. I cost us the game on that decision, and that's one of those things too, Adam, that it's like, you do have that freedom in this offense if you know what you're doing. And Travis Kelce had the freedom, and we sort of talk about like, oh, they were off, they weren't on the same page there, so it's incomplete. That was one to where they weren't on the same page, and it was a pick six because of that. Yep. Like that's sort of that fine line that's there in how in sync those guys are.
Yeah, and everybody loves it when it works out well, like
right,
it did in that touchdown against the Bears a couple of weeks ago. But there was almost a pick against the Jets.
That's
you
right,
remember on a play a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I mean it's great when it works, but it doesn't when it doesn't. But the point is that he's just such a he cares so much about this stuff, and I don't know that the average Chiefs fan really appreciates that about him.
So you got 27-23 for Thursday night?
That's what I'm going with.
All right, we got you written down. Adam Teicher from ESPN, our Chiefs insider. Adam, appreciate it. Enjoy the football. We'll be paying attention to the coverage, and Chiefs getting ready to talk here in just a little bit. We'll let you go. Appreciate it as always, Adam.
Good stuff, Jason. Talk to you next week.
All right, there's Adam Teicher. He is presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you, available at an awesome price, featuring savory soups, crisp salads, and a variety of sandwiches to satisfy your every craving. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Thank you to Adam Teicher from ESPN. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear from the Chiefs out there at the practice facility, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and we'll see who else is going to be there talking with the media. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Thank you to Adam Teicher from ESPN joining us, our Chiefs insider. We will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs here in just a little bit. It'll be Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. It'll be Justin Reid and Justin Ross. So Reid, Mahomes, Reid, Ross.
Or Andy, Mahomes, Andy, Patrick, Justin.
Oh, yeah. APJJ.
APJJ.
Yes, or RMRR.
APJJ is what the Vikings didn't have with L'Jarius Sneed locking him down yesterday, or Sunday, whatever day that was.
That's right, yeah. And now he's out for 4 weeks, slipping and falling on the turf. Travis Kelce slipping on the turf and spraining his ankle, but returning. So thankful that happened. But yes, so Justin Jefferson placed on the IR, designated to return. Looks like Achane maybe. I haven't seen the latest if Devon Achane has been placed on the IR yet, but they're expecting him to miss multiple weeks with his knee injury. And he's been one of the more fun stories this year with one of the, just one of the many explosive players that the Miami Dolphins have after his, 70-yard touchdown or whatever it was over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm really worried they're not going to be as good with only like 6 dudes who run a 3.8 40.
With only 2 guys that claim to be Cheetah.
It's unbelievable. It really is insane.
Mostert's like, I'm Cheetah, and Tyree's like, I'm the original Cheetah, and Achane's like, oh, really?
And then there's a guy who does a penguin dance to celebrate, who is also outrageously fast.
That's right. Just waddles all over the place.
I didn't see this till just now, and you were talking with Adam, but Jeremy Fowler tweeted that the Rams are looking into trading Van Jefferson. That's a little bit interesting. Also, the report this morning that the Jets are looking to move McCole Hardman.
Oh, really? Why?
I don't think that market's going to show up necessarily.
Interesting.
But a couple little interesting receiver notes there.
I don't think that would even get you you get the player, you give up a 6th, but you get a 7th round back. I don't even think that gets you to move up. I think that's sort of a conditional 7th that you may not have to give anything. It can be conditional based on the playing time, and the conditional is just if you get a 7th or not, or like future cash considerations.
And are you guys paying that, or are we paying what the rest of the money this year? Because it's not. He's not making the same amount of money as Emir Smith-Marset.
So how far out? 2 drafts you can go out, or 3 drafts you can go out. So a 2026 7th rounder would be literally the lowest you could trade for somebody.
I think that's right.
So that would be like a 2026 swap of 7th rounders.
Probably so. For Hardman in New York, his deal was 1 year, $4 million, but 2.5 of that was a signing bonus. 3, it's almost all guaranteed.
What's his salary?
The base salary is $1 million and change.
So they would owe him whatever the prorated part of the $1 million and change.
That's right. Yep. His cap hit this year was only $2.2 million because they've got a lot of it stretched out over years. He will not be there. Which
Good for them.
Wild.
So you'd owe him about $600,000 or $700,000 the rest of the way. If you were to trade for him.
Yep. And
they've got space.
I'm like a little interested. If it results in fewer reps going to some of the young guys, I understand why it wouldn't be necessary. But it might be kind of nice to have a receiver who's been in the system before, but not necessarily a receiver who was super well known for perfectly being on the same page as Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
So.
It is fascinating what some receivers look like post Mahomes. Not is that post Mahomes? Not post Malone.
That's exactly right.
Post Mahomes,
couple of great songs.
You've got Juju. That's just incredibly generic in New England with Mac Jones and a generic / bad offense. And then McCole can't even get on the field.
Yep.
Like he can't even see the field in New York. And they've got a nice receiving core. Garrett Wilson is a stud, but it's not like Lazard and Randall Cobb and these guys are just, you don't have Wilson and Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams. And it's like, well, why can't this guy see the field? Well, because not many people are going to see the field with that group. Like Lazard is fine and Randall Cobb is old and he can't see the field with that motley crew.
If somebody could get open quickly and make life a little easier for Zach Wilson, they would be on the field, you'd think.
Absolutely.
And that's not even to mention, Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle, who did, end up catching some other spots and whatever, but it's a really interesting point.
And look at Tyreek Hill. Nobody's even heard of him since he left.
Right. Name one receiver who's gotten maybe even better after leaving Mahomes. Okay, there's one.
Yeah, but name anybody else.
Like they obviously,
besides the guy who's leading the league in receiving yards, right?
This
right
might
now?
be putting too fine a point on it, but like the trade hurt at the time. Like that, you was like, hey,
Yeah.
we're gonna hear about Tyreek Hill in Miami. Maybe we'll see him in an AFC Championship game or whatever. The guys who are just like, who feel like above average role players or strong starters go
Andy.
elsewhere and fall
Here's
apart.
Andy.
Here's Andy Reid.
That's a good thing. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Broncos. Again, we know how this league is. I mean, everybody's got talent and good coaching, and so we welcome them into Arrowhead here. And they've got a lot of talent on that team. Our guys have looked at the tape. They understand that, and Sean is a heck of a football coach, which we all know, and he's got two coordinators I think are tremendous in Lance and Joe. So a lot of coaching experience and then a lot of playing experience. And so our guys have had a good day of preparation yesterday, and they'll have another day today that we can work on things. Again, it's a little bit of a cram course when you work on Thursday night, but the guys have been real good about it and have spent a lot of time up to this point on the game plan. So with that time period.
Travis then came through okay the past couple days.
Yeah, he's done well. He's got quite a little bit of treatment on it, and so he's feeling a little bit better, which is good. Yeah.
On that subject, are you tempted, since it's a short turnaround, do you treat it a little bit different, do more precaution with him?
I'm gonna just see the how he moves around, how he feels. He's been he's always been honest with me on things like that. So we'll just see how he does. But he's doing okay out there today. So we'll see where it goes.
Does it help with a game that's so short that you have an opponent that you're pretty familiar with in Denver? Does that help, or is there just things that you've tried over the years of doing these Thursday night games you've been enjoying?
Yeah, well, we know their personnel. It's but the scheme is different, just with the coaching change. But they're I don't know if it helps or hurts. I don't know. I'll tell you after the game. But I know when we play them, it's always close and a good hard fought game. So I'm expecting it.
Andy, do you even mention to the team to ignore the winning streak, or it just doesn't come up?
Yeah, I don't talk about it. I mean, doesn't matter, right now. It's just, that doesn't count for Thursday, right?
And they know that so well, you don't even have to say
I'm
this.
not going to talk about it.
And Coach, why have you guys been so successful versus Denver over the past few years?
Yeah, well, they've had some change there, so this is a whole new crew, and they've, like I said, they've been close. Most of them have been very close games, and so we've, you just got to throw the record aside and go play, and that's kind of the way this, the AFC West is. It's we'll battle each other.
Andy, how much game planning can you do with just one full day of practice? I know you have walkthroughs, but just one day on the field.
Yeah, well, we went out there yesterday and walked around, did that part. But we can do, decent amount. The guys, we banked enough during training camp and OTAs. It's kind of a refresher from there. So.
You're always a league first guy. Just from a league perspective, are you a fan generally of Thursday night games? Is there any kind of benefit to it?
Yeah, I'm a fan like today because we got the game plan. So getting it to that point is tough. It takes quite a few hours, but I'm okay with it. I mean, I understand it. I think the players get charged up over it, and I know you guys asked Travis that question, and he was very positive about the answer there. So my main concern goes with the players and just see how they feel. And as coaches, we're not getting beat up, out there, so we can push ourselves through it.
Andy, do you ever feel like your players are as prepared for a Thursday night game as they would be for a regular Sunday game?
Well, you hope they are, but you obviously have more time on to prep for that game, so naturally they'd probably be a bit more prepared there. But I know they bust their tail to make sure they have the game plan down.
Is it something you get in the competition committee? Like, I know, like, Jacksonville had 2 weeks to get ready for Buffalo. I know they've been concerned you here, but there are those little, if you add an extra week to the season, add an extra bye, like things like that get discussed as possibility to maybe make it more fair for both teams each game?
Yeah, I think the league does a great job. They don't let much slip, on talking about it. So, and so they've hit on those subjects, and they're pretty strong on all that stuff. And how they look at it from every angle, medical standpoint, like from location and so on. So it comes down to you have 17 of these babies to play, and you got to make sure you're right for each one. I mean, that's bottom line. It doesn't matter day or whatever, night, day of the week, where we're playing. I mean, you have to be ready. That's the bottom line.
Andy, with from you and your coaching staff, is it better to have a Thursday game kind of at this point in the season when you have more tape than, say, like a year ago when you had just one game and it was a divisional opponent on a Thursday night?
Yeah, I'll probably tell you that about every game. You get through the first 4 games, at least you have an idea of what guys, are going to throw at you, at least somewhat of an idea. So, but again, I'd say that about any game. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, it's better to have it a little bit later, I think.
How much have you enjoyed competing against Sean in the past? And
yeah.
I know you were busy focusing on the Super Bowl at the time, but his comments back then were that he was most excited to face you entering the division.
Yeah, he's a good coach, and we're all in it for the competition. Yeah. And so I appreciate the job he does, and look forward to having an opportunity to play against him again.
Andy, I recognize that defenses often take away the back end, but how would you just assess your execution on the few opportunities you did get in the deep passing game?
Yeah, we haven't had a lot presented to us there, but we've done some good things. There are a couple we'd like to have back. I think we'll see at the end of the year how it all works out. But right now you're probably we've had, like I said, there's some good ones and some ones we've been off it too.
Andy, with Justin Ross, more targets in the last game. Where do you see him going forward with this offense? It seems like they're trying to get him more. Patrick Mahomes even mentioned trying to fire it to him. How do you feel he's doing?
Yeah, I think he's getting better. I mean, the young guys seem to be getting better every day. They have a chance. And so it's just a matter of experience. And there's one way of getting that, and that's getting tossed in there and seeing how you do. So he's had a couple of real nice ones, and he's had a couple we'd like to have back, but hopefully grows from that and keeps it progressing like he has been.
Couple more guys.
Andy, aside from the Dolphins, their scoring bonanza on the Broncos, they've been in close games just in their first few games. Just what have you seen from them on film?
Yeah, so they're talented on really both sides of the ball, and I think they're just getting kind of used to the whole new process that they're going through. So, but I think they've got talent and good coaching, and I think our guys see that. We know it from a coaching standpoint because we know the coaches, but I think the players can put on the tape and they see, that there's a lot of skill there and it's a good scheme and all that stuff. So.
Last one, Matt.
Coach Payton told us a few years ago that he always watches your game film every week in your offense. How closely do you watch what Sean's doing on it?
Yeah, well, he's one of the, I think great offensive minds in the game. So we take a peek at his stuff too. So it's, we all steal from each other.
All right. Thank you.
All right, there's Andy Reid. Everybody is scheduled to practice today. That would include Travis Kelce. And Andy Reid, when asked by Seren about, Thursday night game, is it a little more precaution, said, we'll see. He's always honest with them, see how he moves at practice, and then make that decision if he's going to play on Thursday night or not. If he does, obviously he'd probably be even, limited. in his ability to play, or if they just simply say, let's go ahead and let you sit this one out. Although that's not typically something Travis Kelce wants to do. It's different than not being able to go at all with the bone bruise week 1 versus, he did return to action on Sunday, and if he is practicing even in a limited capacity, I think it'd be tough to keep Travis Kelce off the field.
That's just the other thing to keep an eye on. Is it going to be a full participation? I'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah.
A lot of times, hey, everyone's going to work, and then you'll see 3 or 4 guys who are limited. We'll see. It's my hope that they are cautious with Travis Kelce, especially including the opponent. But as all the questions, even last week, and certainly all those today, you heard from Andy Reid. I think someone asked last week, like, hey, is there a feeling of maybe holding a guy? I think it was about Nick Bolton. Do you hold Nick Bolton out longer because it's going to be a short week? That's not really how we do it. Like, you're kind of either good to go or you're not. I wouldn't mind if they broke that rule to hold Kelce out, but I also understand that this man likes to play football. He's already missed 1 game. I'm guessing he'd like to get 1,000 yards. He'll never talk about the individual stuff, but more than anything, I know Travis Kelce wants to play, and so if he can, I bet he will.
Yeah. And again, even if it's in a limited capacity and he's out there playing, 30, 40% of the reps, well, then, other guys have to step up. And Justin Ross, Andy Reid was asked about him, and, it's just a matter of experience. He's made some good plays. He'd like to have some back. He has dropped 3 balls that were in his hands. The first play of, the Bears game that they threw over to him, first play of the game, and ended up dropping the ball on first down. And then the 2 drops he had yesterday or on Sunday against the Vikings. So he got a couple of catches on the season, but he's got some drop passes too. And he's not necessarily a pass dropper. So that, to me, is, part of the experience. You get out there, you're playing more, you're in the flow of the game. The game isn't as fast to you when you're out there playing as often, just like Rashee Rice, was dropping, 1 a game. And he went 4 for 4 with passes that touched his body that he caught. 4 for 5 in targets, but 4 for 4 when they touched his body, he caught it.
Interesting for Andy Reid also on Justin Ross to say there's one way to get better, and that's getting tossed in there to see how you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 6 snaps for him. Here's Justin Reid.
Thursday night game as you do for a normal Sunday game?
Yeah, Thursday nights are tough. I mean, you're not going to get the same amount of field work as you want to get in a normal week. Your bodies are still kind of recovering a bit. So it really turns into a big mental game. Guys are going to have to be pros, and this is our job. So it's going to take a lot of film work, a lot of communication, and a lot of trust in our fundamentals that we went through training camp to make sure we're prepared to play.
Do you start looking at Broncos stuff like last week in a spare minute, or is it all?
No, we try and focus on the task at hand. You don't want to put the chicken before the egg and, watch Broncos before we were done with the Vikings. But on the flight home, the page turned a lot quicker than we normally would, and we got to work on the Broncos right away.
Is it helpful that it is an opponent that you are familiar with? I know different coach, but still some personnel out there that's kind of the same. How much does that help you preparing for such a short
I think it does a bit in knowing the personnel side of it. Their offense is a little bit different under new management with Coach Sean Payton, and I think it's Coach Lombardi as the OC from the Chargers. So they do some things differently than last year, but being familiar with them and them being familiar with us does help a little bit.
Justin, what stands out to you about the defensive backs and just the execution back there in the first month or so?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tight-knit group, man. We have a lot of trust in each other to go out and perform. LJ, Trent, Mike, Cooks, I mean, all the guys, Jalen, Josh, that come in. There's a very high level of confidence that we built through training camp right now. And it's the same thing I'm going to say. Like, we believe in each other, and we believe in the scheme, and we go out there and we perform and execute. So it's been going well right now. We've got to keep doing that.
Obviously, a better execution than you did last year, at least statistically. Is it just a matter of getting to know one another? I mean, and how does that relationship actually?
Yeah, I think a lot of it plays in. I mean, we had 5 rookies playing last year. There's a lot of youth on the field. I mean, we still have one of the youngest defenses in the league, but we have a year in the system. We have a lot of trust in each other, and that knowledge and that chemistry from last year playing well into February is coming really well for us this season, and just building off of that, not starting over, but continuing to elevate. And we got some free agent signings that came in and helped us a lot too.
Speaking of that, what do you say for Mike Edwards last couple weeks?
Oh, great player, man. He comes in, has a knack for finding the ball. is a guy that has been great for the room as a teammate, character-wise, but always very humble and willing to learn. And, when the ball's in the air, he just has a knack for being around it.
One thing that you said in training camp was that this year you feel like you were coming in a step ahead, had a real feel for the defense through 5 games. What's kind of the update on that? Are you feeling like you're playing at a much higher level at this stage?
Yeah, absolutely. Confidence is a lot higher. And just knowing the defensive scheme, I feel a lot confident in myself making the calls and knowing exactly where I'm supposed to be on plays that we both practice and that we haven't practiced yet, just knowing the system.
Justin, you guys have beaten them many times in a row, and is there any kind of work to dismiss that? I mean, do you have to tell yourself to get that out of your head, or is it something you're even conscious of?
I don't think it matters. Every season is a new season. It doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're not playing your best ball, anything could happen. And last I checked, all those games came down to a final possession. So it's going to be a tough battle. It's a divisional opponent. Doesn't matter how the rest of the games go. If you win your division, you're automatically in the playoffs. So this is going to be a very big deal for them, as it is a big deal for us, to make sure that we go out and win.
And the flip side of that is, do you think that would be motivation for them to be conscious of a streak like that?
Yeah, always. It always will be. I know I played in the team that was in that situation. And what I know from being in that situation is you just try and find a way to get one win first. Doesn't matter about the rest of you. You find a way to get one win. And if we allow them to stick around during the course of the game, it's going to turn into a brawl. So they have some talent on that side of the field, and we need to make sure we take care of business so that the game stays close. They're going to fight a lot harder than if we put them away early.
What situation was that? What was the...
I went 4-12 with the Houston Texans twice.
Oh, I thought it was against one team in particular.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, I was on the losing team. Yeah.
Just you said you got to be professionals. It's a Thursday game. It's there. You're going to play it. But you have some thoughts? Like, would you like to see the NFLPA maybe fight for another bye week, so maybe you could have a bye?
Yeah, I think that would be nice if there was a way to set it up that it might be extra bye week and be able to split them in half, so that way it'd be a little bit of extra rest. It might be better for everyone's body, but at the end of the day, the cards are on the table as they are, and we got to go play.
Justin, what's it going to be like for the group to see Frank Clark?
Oh, that's going to be fun, man. Frank is always welcome here at the Chiefs, man. He's a great guy, great player. I know it's going to be surreal and a lot of feelings going there for him when he comes back in here, and can't wait to watch him work.
Last one.
Justin, their record doesn't speak for it, but statistically, Russell Wilson is playing pretty well.
Yeah, Russ has been cooking. Yeah, Russ has been cooking. Their offense has been doing well. They've been hurt by some turnovers. They have a couple things that they need to tighten up on the defensive side of the ball, but offensively, Russ has been playing great. They're getting thrown under the bus because of their record. But we have a challenge in front of us, and it's not to be taken lightly.
Thank you.
All right, there's Justin Reed. And Thursday night games. It's funny, the Travis Kelce likes the Thursday night games because he says you get an extra sort of bye. And Justin Reed says it's tough. The prep, the bodies. This is a big mental game on Thursday. So the team that's going to be mentally prepared, mentally tough, I think they may go to the team that's playing better football and more feeling like their season's still alive, which would certainly be in the favor of the Chiefs, but Denver's played them close.
Yeah, I think the fact that you've heard from Reed and Reed there that hey, those are close games makes me think that there's been a little work in the building of hey, we're not overlooking this. This is a Thursday and against a team that keeps losing, but these are tight games. These games have been closer than our 8-year winning streak or whatever it is.
Yeah, these last year even a 5-12 team played you to a possession each game. Now
with Nat Hackett coaching.
Yeah, with Nathaniel Hackett. Now they've got the savior in Sean Payton,
and he's saving them.
Mm-hmm.
My savior.
Some things to tighten up on defense, they say.
They might tighten some things up on defense, yeah. What would that be? Well, I don't know, when the other quarterback passes the ball.
Or when the other quarterback hands the ball off to a runner and they just start running.
Too. They have faced off against Jimmy Garoppolo, Sam Howell, Tua, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson.
Oh, my God.
And Tua put up 70 on them.
They have the worst quarterback rating against, a 124.6 quarterback rating from those 5 QBs. They have given up the most touchdown passes with 13. They have the highest yards per attempt against them. And the completion percentage is the highest in the NFL at 77.3% with those 5 quarterbacks. This guy's going up against him this week. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
So just big picture, what do you see from the offense right now? Where are you guys at?
Yeah, I thought we took a step in the positive direction this last week. That's a hard scheme to go against, the amount of pressure, the amount of dropping out, the cover zero. And I thought the young guys did a good job of being in the right spot at the right time. I think selfishly for myself, if I could hit some of those deep shots that when we did get the opportunities, the one to Justin Watson, I missed the corner that got me with the scheme, so I tried to lay him out to the sideline instead of throwing it over the middle. And the one to Marquez, and even though there's a guy there, I can put it out there. But luckily, he made a good play and got the flag. So I think if you hit on those deep throws right there, the rest of the offense was going. So we just got to hit those deep ones when they're there.
Patrick, on a short week. Andy about that same thing, that same topic. Just wondering, the fact that you get so few of those opportunities, does it factor at all in to, I think, the execution, I guess, of the play when you do get them?
Not necessarily. I mean, just whenever you do get those opportunities, you have to hit them. And that's something that I tell myself every week. And we haven't hit them at the high enough pace this season so far, but we have historically. So let's just try to continue to work at them and practice them. And then when we get those opportunities in the game, let's try to hit them. But as far as the rest of the offense, I thought we did a good job of just moving the ball around, taking what was underneath. But, yeah, when we get those opportunities, you got to hit them in this league.
Patrick, on a short week, how do you prioritize rest versus, how much you study?
Yeah, I'm pretty big at just Monday, Tuesday, just really getting after the details and stuff like that. And I feel like if I can really get the full game plan in, which we have already, and get it all down where I feel comfortable, Wednesday I can relax and let my body relax and study and stuff like that. And it always helps when you're the home team, so you're at your house doing that instead of traveling and stuff like that. So the coaches did a good job of getting the game plan in early, so I've kind of gotten pretty much all of it down now, and hopefully I get some sleep tonight and get some rest tomorrow.
And in quarterback, you showed us, your weekly, you still work out by yourself. You still do that in a short week?
Yeah, we do a good plan. It's not as much as I would get in a normal week, but it's just trying to do something to just flush the body out, get it moving and stuff like that, so you're not sore on game day and you can have your body in a good spot.
What can you say about Kelsey's game on his bum ankle?
Yeah, no, I mean it's tough, man. That's a legendary type game. I mean, to be able to battle through that. I mean, obviously I didn't see the injury live, so I didn't know how bad it was. But I'm looking back on it now and seeing how the ankle rolled, and then being able to come back out there and play at a high level and score a touchdown that we needed to win the game. It speaks to not only the talent that he has, but the toughness that he has, and that the reason that he's been out there week in and week out, because he'll battle through anything to go out there and play.
It wasn't clear before, it is now, how much he really wants to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other stories about how much that means to him to be out there?
Yeah, no, I mean, even like this last when he had the injury in practice, I mean, he was trying to play that game, and I remember after we lost that first game of the season, just texting him and just asking him how he feels, and he didn't even tell me how he feels. He just said, "There's no doubt I'm playing next week." So that was the end of it, and so he was playing. So that just speaks to the toughness and the mindset that he has.
What was he like during the week leading up to the Detroit game?
Well, it happened so late in the week that I think he was just frustrated that he didn't get out there, and he was trying to push it to get out there. I mean, yeah, he's a guy that wants to play. He's a competitor at the end of the day, and he loves football and loves being a part of this Chiefs team. And he goes out there and battles week in and week out. And I mean, I think people don't even know sometimes that he might be dealing with something, or he might not be feeling great, but he'll go out there and play at a high level. That's what all the great ones do.
Patrick, speaking of ankles, it looks like every week your ankle looks like it's getting tweaked a little bit. How is your ankle feeling?
Yeah, it actually was my ankle. I don't know if you remember in your like high school when someone would frog you, like he just kneed me right in the side of my calf, and it just kind of like sent that shock through my leg. So it's fine, it's just a bruise. But yeah, it wasn't everybody thought it was my ankle. It was just the old frog right in the side of the leg.
It seems like Rashee Rice is starting to really come along at this stage. What have you seen in particular from him that is making you have that trust kind of beyond even Travis?
Yeah, no, he's doing a great job of just being in the right spot at the right time. I think that's the biggest thing. He plays hard, he plays fast. When he gets his opportunities, he makes the most out of them. And so he'll just continue to learn. I mean, if you look at the touchdown that we had, I mean, the one before, I wanted him to go over the top, which we didn't teach that. So it was kind of one of those things, a veteran-type move, and he saw that. He learned from that, and the next play, we got a coverage that we weren't expecting to that play, and he was able to still win and be there at the right spot. So it's just learning on the go, and that's what you have to do as a rookie in this league, and he's done a great job of it.
Patrick, when you've had a streak like this against the Broncos, is there any kind of psychological battle to flush that? I mean, how do you try to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just when you play a team like the Broncos, same with any division opponent, there's just another level of intensity. So I'm not worried about necessarily a streak or anything like that. I'm worried about winning against a division opponent, and I know just as much as I think everyone in this locker room knows that it doesn't matter what the records are. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a hard-fought battle. Both teams are going to give everything they have, and so that's just the history of the matchup. And so that's the thing with me. It's not about the streak. It's about going out there and find a way to win against a division opponent in a tough-fought battle.
Is it something you need to convey to other guys? I mean, do you have any concern about anybody thinking that way?
No, I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, we understand the intensity. It's like the first thing we talk about every week we play a division opponent is that it's a different football game. It's more physical, it's faster, and the mistakes, you have to minimize those mistakes because they mean more. And so that's just how it is playing in the AFC West.
Patrick, what do you see out of the Broncos defense? What challenges do they present against someone like Fred Clark over there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think as far as their DBs are concerned, they have veteran safeties. They have young, really good corners, especially Surtain. Obviously, he intercepted me last year, but he's just a good physical corner. Can do a little bit of everything. So I mean, one of the top corners in this league. And then their D line. I mean, they have pass rushers kind of everywhere. And obviously, Frank, I understand how explosive he is off the football. But I think the Benito kid's done a great job this year. He's really kind of coming into his own. And it seems like every year the Broncos just have more and more pass rushers that just keep they just keep coming. And so it's going to have to make sure that we neutralize those as much as we possibly can. Those guys, I mean, that's going to be a tough challenge for us. And then the linebackers are two smart guys. I mean, Joel had 2 interceptions on me last year. So it's a good defense. And it's going to take us really executing at a high level if we want to go out there and continue to take steps in the positive direction with the offense.
Well, the last 3, Sarin, Nathan, and Steve Witzrin.
Patrick, I know on the scramble drill, everyone's kind of got their rules, and it's something you guys practice and everything. Do you always want somebody headed for the end zone? Like when you take off, you feel like, hey, that is it a matter of like spreading the field and kind of having somebody everywhere, and you definitely want somebody back in the end zone in case they kind of forget you can take a shot?
Yeah, I think we just kind of play ball. We just kind of work that. There's different angles that we take and everything like that, but at the end of the day, people have to find that open space. But yeah, if someone wants to head to the end zone, I'm definitely looking that way.
Patrick, last year you guys had the Thursday night game in week 2, so it's it's obviously tough to just have one game to sort of get a feel for everybody. How different does it feel now having 5 games to get a feel for what the offense is when you know it's a short week?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously we had a little bit of it last year with the new receiving group, but more veteran guys. They had an understanding of what we could pull from training camp and kind of put in the game plan. But I think now, especially the young guys that we have, being able to have a few weeks of them learning the offense and how we do things on a weekly basis, that having the extra few weeks to prepare will help them with this Thursday night game, and we're able to still add stuff to the game plan. And do different stuff, and they understand it. They know it from training camp and from the season. And so, yeah, definitely Thursday night games are tough, I think, on everybody to prepare and game plan and everything like that. But it's about who can execute and who can go out there and make the least mistakes and have the intensity at the end of the day. And so I think that's what you've seen in the Thursday night game so far, and which you'll continue to see this season.
Last one, Steve.
Patrick, Justin Reed just talked to us about Russell Wilson, said he looks like he's still cooking. What are you seeing from him? I know you primarily watch the defense, but what do you see from him?
Yeah, I mean, he's played good football. I think the numbers have said it, and the play, it looks like that. And so it's he's a top tier quarterback in this league. He's won Super Bowls. He's put up crazy numbers, and so I feel like people kind of like some other quarterbacks in the league. People put all the blame on him, but I mean, he's playing great football, and sometimes it just the score doesn't go your way. And so I know it's going to be a hard-fought battle. Last year was a hard-fought battle against the Broncos both times we played because they have a top quarterback and a good defense. And so I'm excited for the opportunity that we have to go up against a great team.
Thank you.
Justin Ross.
All right, there's Patrick Mahomes. We'll hear from Justin Ross when he gets in there. Interesting, it was not his ankle or a knee. He got frogged in the calf, and then it stayed in his throat. I'm one to talk.
That was a big talk from you today, Jason.
Yeah, how about Patrick Mahomes' voice? Am I right?
Speak up, kid.
Yeah, obviously. No, it's yeah, I mean, obviously. But I thought it was a knee. A lot of people thought it was ankle. I thought it was knee. The way he was sort of walking, I didn't think it was his ankle or a foot, but it was a calf. He got frogged in the calf. You know, you just get frogged.
Just get frogged sometimes.
Guy frogged him. Right in the calf. What a jerk. What a jerk. He is getting like nicked up each
every game, dude.
I mean, every time it's like sort of hobbling and he gets really annoyed. He's like, come on, man. What the hell, dude? And it's weird because, you know, the officials are out to protect the Chiefs and they're clearly protecting the superstar Patrick Mahomes.
Clearly.
With his all of 2 roughing the passer penalties in the last, since the beginning of 2022.
Well, it's not like there are constantly dudes around his feet grabbing at his ankles. It's not like that happens like 5 times a game.
2. You know, Chad Henne has 2.
The same time period?
Mahomes has 2.
Chad
Henne may only have 1, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It doesn't sound as good if you say like 1. I know he's got at least 1.
He's got 50% as many.
It's even the same as like, well, Chad Henne has a roughing the passer, and Mahomes has 2 since the beginning of last year. You know, the NFL going out of their way to protect. But I do love that it's like, you know, watching the Vikings game and then seeing some of the reaction yesterday. I woke up yesterday to find out that there was a controversy about officials in that game. Did not think that would be the case, but whatever. And it was like, well, you know, Kirk Cousins got hit in the head on that last play. If that was Patrick Mahomes, they would have like a 30-yard penalty. Like, dude, he is not a protected quarterback in the league, man.
I couldn't tell you the last time he got a call like that. I just really can't think of one.
Like honestly, like we're not even being sarcastic.
No, I really can't.
I don't even know the roughing the passer, the 2 roughing the passer calls against Patrick Mahomes. I honestly could not even venture a guess with those.
I'm gonna look into it.
But it is annoying because it's around his legs.
His career, he has 2.
No, at the beginning of he had 2
year.
all of last year, and he hasn't had 1 this year yet.
Currently, all I'm seeing is the Chris Jones penalty. When you Google Patrick Mahomes roughing the passer, you get more of that.
I don't know where you would go and find the roughing the passers against, and how many he's had in his career versus like just in general other quarterbacks.
That I actually do think I'm going to have here in just a second.
Good for you.
So how about that?
Look at you.
Let's go active quarterbacks only. How about that? NFLpenalties.com.
Nice. It's not like, you know, the protected, you know, Tom Brady. How protected he was. I don't even know if he was or not, but it just seemed that way. It seemed like he was protected because Lord knows you got to make sure that the star of the league is not going to be out with an injury. Because he's been hit twice in the way that, you know, Arden Key against the Jags in doing the, what's it called? The hip swing.
The drop.
Yeah, the hip drop.
The hip drop.
The hip drop that they tried to outlaw. That oddly enough, the NFLPA said, no, you don't outlaw it. They fought against outlawing that. The hip drop tackle, which Arden Key had on Mahomes, which hurt his ankle. And then Aiden Hutchinson did the same thing. You know, after the ball was well gone. Like, that could have been a roughing the passer call on Aiden Hutchinson. It wasn't. You know, you play on. You move on. But, yeah, he's had a couple where they've rolled up on his leg, and it's very annoying.
This NFLpenalties.com has a way you can sort by per 100 pass attempts.
Oh, okay.
And so Mahomes is averaging .57, which is right there with Dak Prescott, Colt McCoy, and right behind, funnily enough, Blaine Gabbert.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
He does get calls slightly fractionally more often than Jameis Winston and Matt Stafford.
Okay, cool.
Right there with Case Keenum.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
And Aaron Rodgers, which I would have expected.
Interesting.
He would have gotten more.
Yeah.
But he's also thrown the ball a lot. He's gotten a lot of calls. And that I think this may also be counting declined penalties as well. Declined and offsetting penalties are included in this.
Good.
So again, the whole thing here that they say, the original little section on this page says, let's face it, you're probably here because of a social media spat over Tom Brady. And then it goes on to, so pretty much now, yes. Including the postseason as well. But the numbers you had for last year are all reflected here as well. 2 calls last year for Mahomes. And
how many does it say how many
year.
had the year before? Like
5.
No kidding.
That's what it says.
Wow.
Do you think they replace that or edit that first line with Patrick Mahomes
I
now?
mean, it'd be a quick edit. It'd be an easy one.
It really would.
It'd be an easy one. Yeah. How many has Kirk Cousins had?
Hold on, let me go over. I'm trying to now ID
Sorry.
these. It's okay. I'm trying to ID what the calls were last year.
Yeah.
I gotta have to restart. I was like, wait, that doesn't seem right at all. Kirk Cousins, for comparison, is getting a call 0.78 out of every 100 pass attempts, which is like, and Mahomes was at 0.57. So Cousins gets a lot of calls. No one got more per 100, though, than Trevor Siemian.
Well, yeah, protected.
Shocking, with 11 in 2020, really inflating his numbers. Josh Allen.
Wow.
Second highest percentage of calls per 100 dropbacks, and then Jimmy Garoppolo after that. Which kind of you think the guys who like live in the pocket, who look unathletic when they get hit, the ones you want to give the calls to. But Josh Allen's surprising.
How many total has Kirk Cousins had? Like, has he had one this year or last year?
He has not had one this year. It looks like he got 5 calls last year.
5 last year. Okay.
This is all NFLpenalties.com if you want to play along.
So Kirk Cousins, since the beginning of last year, has got 3 more roughing the passer calls than Patrick Mahomes. Yet the cry from Vikings fans was that if that was Mahomes who got hit high, even though the arm was hit, not the head, got hit high, then that would be a 15-yard penalty roughing the passer because the NFL is protecting Patrick Mahomes. That's interesting to note that twice as many roughing the passer calls have gone to Kirk Cousins than Patrick Mahomes.
The highest total numbers going back to 2009 here. It's a lot of older guys, obviously, but Roger, Stafford, Wilson, Tannehill, Cousins, Goff, Josh Allen, Andy Dalton, Derek Carr, and then you get to Mahomes and Dak and Baker Mayfield.
Where's Joe Burrow at, just for comparison?
Where is Joe Burrow at? Good question.
He's finally having a good game in Arizona is where he was at on Sunday.
I'm going to have to go back to per 100 attempts because he hasn't played as many games as the rest of these dudes. Joe Burrow, per 100 attempts, near the very bottom, it looks like. Sorted by per 100 attempts, Jalen Hurts, the lowest rate for guys. So I think this is guys who have played 32 or more games. So just as a little cutoff there. 32 games or more. Jalen Hurts, the fewest. Kyler Murray next. Daniel Jones next. Tied, actually, with Joe Burrow and Brian Hoyer and Trevor Lawrence.
Interesting.
0.39 per 100.
So maybe it isn't that the NFL has some sort of edict that they are going to protect certain star quarterbacks.
It almost seems that way.
Almost seems like it's kind of no rhyme or reason.
It almost seems like there may not be a lot of correlation to this particular causation.
So it may just simply be like each individual play is judged on its own merits?
Yeah, and like there's maybe a room for like a lot of human error and human judgment in real time by like, some older dudes on a football field.
It's interesting.
I think that there's...
Well, also what time of the game?
Like that. That's a great point. It's a great point. If I could sort this by fourth quarter, I'm sure Mahomes would be... I think he's gotten roughing the passer call in every fourth quarter he's ever played in.
Because I know against the Eagles in the Super Bowl and against the Jets on Sunday night, you can't make that call at that time. You can't do that.
No,
you got to let the players play. And then also Sunday in Minnesota, how do you not make that call?
I mean, it's impossible.
It clearly benefited the Chiefs, and you have to make that call because it was an obvious pass interference. You let the players play, and they played, and L'Jarius Sneed broke the rules. So pass interference, how do you not call that? Because you have to call that at that time.
I've found here a story in the Kansas City Star from last year of roughing not called despite a big hit on Patrick Mahomes. That's the closest I've gotten to finding the roughing rule here, or the roughing call.
It would take Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes sort of complaining about it. Not that, there have been any obvious ones missed. Like, I'm not saying that clearly these are obvious ones that are missed, but there are some guys laying around Patrick Mahomes' legs that have been kind of annoying. That's been outlawed. Now, I don't know if some of those then would be called on other quarterbacks, or it's just, hey, you know what, the way that player was around your legs, that's not going to be called a roughing the passer. Sorry. We're talking about a guy that could hold up, didn't, and then, grabbed the legs. This guy was going to the ground. He was blocked there. He's on the ground. He can still reach out and try to grab you, like was against the Lions in that game in week 1, where the guy, was falling and then just, reached out and grabbed Mahomes' legs and held on. And then that was when McKinnon dropped the ball on 3rd and 1. Things like that. Yeah, would make sense. I don't know that there are many. The Arden Key one is annoying as hell. And the Aiden Hutchinson one, I thought, technically could have been called. Yeah. It was close. It was borderline. And the officials chose the other way. If it was being protected, the borderline would go Mahomes' way.
Okay, I can sort this by another way where I can sort it by per sack.
Woo.
Because then you're thinking about, look, if if Tom Brady's getting rid of the football early every time, if
Yeah.
Burrow, whose numbers are surprisingly low, gets rid of the ball pretty quick.
And he gets sacked a lot too.
Well,
or
that's
at least
true.
he did.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So maybe this may all come out in the wash.
So maybe maybe it's either he's gotten rid of the ball so quickly nobody's near him, or he's just getting sacked. There's no in between where he can throw it and then a couple seconds later a guy can hit him.
So like per sack of the quarterbacks qualifying here, I went back to all quarterbacks since 2009. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins have the highest rates of roughing calls per sack.
Well, that's also because Mahomes doesn't take sacks.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Is like that's there's a lot of this obviously is going to have a lot of weird little statistical noise, but if you're a dork, it's kind of fun. And if you're not a dork, you stopped listening 5 or 6 minutes ago. So thank you for being here, fellow dorks.
We appreciate what you do by listening to us. Thank you.
You know what I'm worried about right now?
What?
I'm worried that Justin Ross can't break even Chiefs PR coverage.
You're Justin Ross.
Break out!
I played pretty decent, but I left a lot out there that I know I got to clean up this week. So I feel like I could have played a lot better.
Talk about your catch, just the one along the sideline.
It was something that we had drew up all week. Coach let me know that it was my play. It was my play to have. So I just felt like I had to win quick, and Pat put it up there, and I just went and got it.
Coach talks about knowing the offense and the scheme and your role and the different. Then you start to learn the other people's roles in case there's an injury and you need to go there. How do you think it's going as far as knowing the scheme and your place right now and being comfortable with the offense as a whole?
I feel like it's going pretty good for me. I feel like I'm developing pretty well, pretty fast in this offense. So I feel like as time goes on, that I'll pretty much know everything.
Is it hard? Like in college, you run out there, you're out there all the time, right? You're the guy. Here, there's kind of you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. Does that make it more difficult, or is there valuable conversations being had on the sidelines that add to the equation?
Nah, I wouldn't say it make it more difficult. We are pros, and it's a high expectation for everybody in here, and I just gotta maintain the expectation.
When you're in the room with Coach Embry, what are some of the coaching points, the things that he's wanting you to zone in on as you go here?
Basically, just understanding more than the scheme, understanding like the defenses, understanding why is he here and why is he here. Just understanding everything that goes on in the field.
How difficult is that to do, pre and sometimes even post snap on the fly at the pro level? Just considering this is still your first year, not yet last year. So.
I mean, it's going to come as time goes. I mean, just with more experience and just seeing everything play out as fast as it does on the field. I feel like it's going to get easier as time goes.
As you get more comfortable with the offense, just what do you feel like your role is going to be for this offense?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm here whenever they call my name. Whenever my number's called, I'm ready to make a play.
Does the rivalry with the Broncos? I mean, I know it hasn't been from a win-loss standpoint, it hasn't been tremendously competitive, but it's been one that's been pretty intense over the years. Do you feel that it's any different when it's one of these division opponents, particularly Denver, or is it the NFL just every game's another game?
Oh no, those divisional opponents. I mean, we got to come in ready to play. I mean, those are the games that you kind of want to have going through your weeks, and so I feel like for a divisional opponent, we got to come in on something different.
They've had their struggles on defense. I mean, they gave up 70 a couple of weeks ago. Look at it, is it hard to maybe focus when you see an opponent that has had some struggles, or is that something that the coaching staff really drills down on to not take an opponent lightly?
Nah, never take an opponent lightly. You never know what they could have had going on that day. They could come in on this game fired up, ready to go. So I feel like we just got to play everybody the same and take everybody the hard way.
Justin, you talked to Rasheed about this, but he said the hardest transition to the NFL was like clearing a play and just forgetting about a mistake. Obviously, you did drop a pass last Sunday. Is it more difficult at this level, not getting as many opportunities to kind of move on from a mistake?
Oh no, that's always been my mindset. Just go on to the next play every time, because you can't dwell on, you can't have it back. So I mean, all you can do is go on about it. So no, that's never been hard for me.
You mentioned just in your first answer that you've got some things to clean up. Is it that, or is there's some other stuff too that you're also still trying to fine tune?
No, it's obviously the drops. You can't have those, especially in critical situations. So I feel like that's the main thing. Just no drops.
Definitely in this last game, it seems
Last
like
one.
you're gaining the trust from Patrick, and we don't get to see the practices, and you've only had a handful of snaps here and there. But where do you think the rapport is with the quarterback right now?
Say that one more time.
Where do you think the rapport and the chemistry is with Mahomes right now?
I mean, it's there with everybody. As I know, we rotate a lot of receivers, so everybody gets a little piece of the pie. So once you get the opportunity, you got to make sure you're on the same page with them.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
All right, there's Justin Ross, and it'll come as time goes with figuring out the offense and where he's supposed to be, understanding scheme and defenses. Why is he here? Why is he there? And as fast as it plays out on the field, it'll eventually happen with more time. And that play down the sideline, the 16 or 18-yard catch, whatever it was, said they worked on it all week. It was my play, so I had to go up and win. So that's interesting. They had a specific play put in for Justin Ross.
I think for the second week in a row, if I had to guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that first one last week and that first drive, and they're working targets to Justin Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think it's fascinating that Andy Reid said earlier, hey, the only way you're going to get better is to get out there and get those reps. Everything Justin Ross talked about there feels like a guy who just needs to get more reps, and the coaching staff needs to put him in situations they can trust him to do that.
That was 2nd and 17, and it was a 20-yard catch. So right after a sack, which, by the way, we're talking about sacks. It's always a shock when Patrick Mahomes is sacked. Like, that didn't happen. What's going on here? Is there a glitch in the matrix? He falls down behind the line of scrimmage with the ball in his hands and a guy near him. But 2nd and 17, Justin Ross, hey, this is a play we've been working on all week. Here it is.
Here we go.
It's time, score, place on the field. Go get it. Go make a play. And clearly the timing was there, so obviously they were working on it during the week because Mahomes put it perfectly where it needed to be. Justin Ross was there ready to go. And I think that is an indication of something to look forward to throughout the rest of the season and maybe the next couple of years, as Justin Ross is talking about as time goes, as fast as it plays out. That is a play they worked on. He was comfortable with it, and it looked smooth as hell. Beat my guy, went up, made a play because I knew this was exactly what I was supposed to do. So maybe as that starts to happen, when he turns around in his route, he won't be so shocked when the ball is there and it hits him on the 8 and it falls incomplete, which it did on that pretty easy one. That it looked like he just dropped it when the camera pans over there. Then you watch Justin Ross as he turns. It's like, oh crap, the ball's here. Yeah, this is Mahomes.
Yep.
The ball's going to be there.
Yep.
So clearly that wasn't a this is your play. When you turn around, expect the ball to be thrown to you. The ball is going to be on you. He knew once he got on the sideline and that guy was on his hip, that ball's coming my way. So I've got to be ready to go and go catch it. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Braden Gall coming up about 1:20 or so. ESPN Radio Athlon Sports, our college football insider. Hang out with him. Chiefs there out at the practice facility practicing, and then an off day tomorrow, and then Thursday night football against the Denver Broncos. 10.5-point favorites are the Kansas City Chiefs. These games typically have been closer. I don't know, maybe I'm just ignoring recent trends, but I do not expect this one to be all that close. I just think it's a terrible matchup for the Broncos in general because they're not a good team, but also the Broncos' offense has been better this year, and the Chiefs' defense is legit, and the Broncos' defense is the worst in the NFL, and the Chiefs' offense is the part that, been inconsistent. So if the Chiefs' offense gets rolling against that crappy defense, and the Chiefs' defense just simply plays representative of what they've been so far this year, it's not like the Denver Broncos' offense has been the Dolphins. They only scored 20 points against the Dolphins in that game, even though Russell Wilson, the numbers are good. Yeah, they're fine. But they're also, not scoring at the clip you would expect them to score at. So, I think it's I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong on Friday morning going, well, that was a little closer than it should have been.
If you think it's going to be close, it's by reputation.
That's it, yeah.
Which I don't think is wrong because specifically the reputation of Thursday Night Football. That's the one other thing where, and we're going to find out again, like whatever it'll be, 13 days later or whatever. I don't think that's the right number, but it goes Broncos, Chargers, Broncos again, which is a weird scheduling quirk. But
so like 17 days?
We'll figure out in that 17-day window, you'll get 2 shots at the Broncos, one on a short week, one on a regular week. Speaking of shots, Aaron Schatz tweeted yesterday morning, the Denver Broncos, who had the worst defense ever measured by DVOA through 4 games, also have the worst defense ever measured by DVOA through 5 games. 5 weeks into the season, it's the worst defense they've ever measured with DVOA. That's not a super, super old stat, but it's a really informative one. And that is wild. I don't know how far they've backlogged it or anything, but I think you're right when you look at the matchups, and it's the inverse of what we talked about earlier with, hey, there's a little bit of a stabilizing factor when your defense is good.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos' defense can't stop anything. It's atrocious. It's hard to overstate how bad their defense has been this year. Not just because of the Dolphins, because you mentioned all the other quarterbacks they've already gone up against this year. It is not a team, not a list of quarterbacks you're happy to give up however many touchdowns it was to those guys.
If you were to take away, let's just do it this.
Take away the Dolphins?
Yeah, so if you just simply take away the Dolphins game, the yards given up, now they have given up the second most yards in football, the Broncos have through the air. If you take away the Broncos game...
Is that adjusting for number of games to everybody else, or is it still second in football?
No, it's the Bears have given up 1,430 yards, and the Broncos are at 1,315.
So we're not doing per game minus the Dolphins. It's just if they were on bye that week.
I want to take away that. That's what they've done this year so far.
Okay.
So take away the Dolphins, they would have the 5th most yards given up.
Amazing.
So if they have only played 4 games and the bye was the Dolphins, they would still have given up the 5th most passing yards on the season. If you take away the Dolphins' touchdowns, they would still have given up the 5th most passing touchdowns because Tua had 309 yards and 4 touchdowns. Wow. So they've given up 13 touchdowns, passing touchdowns this year. They would have given up 9. 5th most is Minnesota at 9. That would be the Broncos, 5th most at 9, if you take away the Dolphins. Now, they have the worst quarterback rating against when you're talking about, yes, they've played Tua. They have also played Sam Howell, Jimmy Garoppolo, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields. And they've got a 124.6 quarterback rating against. We mentioned the 13 touchdowns. Yards per attempt, 9.1, the most in the NFL. 77.3% quarterbacks are completing passes, the most in the NFL. The yards they've given up total, passing yards, second most in the NFL. Well, that means they're a bad passing defense.
Oh, just you wait.
Well, rushing yards, they've given up the most.
Yeah.
Rushing yards, 938. They've almost given up a 1,000-yard rusher through 5 weeks.
Holy bleep.
938 yards on the ground so far.
Now, like 600 of those are from the Dolphins, right?
Yes, that's right. That goes along with giving up the second most passing yards in the NFL. Yards per attempt, 5.9. 32nd. It's the highest yards per attempt on the ground.
The Broncos' rushing defense has turned every running back they've gone up against into prime Jamal Charles.
That's right.
Oh.
Rushing touchdowns, 8. They've given up the third most rushing touchdowns. And yards per play, 7. 7 yards, which is 32nd in the NFL, which is dead last. But yards per play, 7. And by the way, it's by 0.7 yards. If you were to take the difference between the Broncos and the number 2 New York Giants, is the same difference between the New York Giants and number 9 Cincinnati.
Oh, my goodness.
From Denver, number 1, most yards given up per play, to number 2 New York is the same gap between number 2 and number 9. I'm sorry, this should not be a game. I don't care that it's a divisional game. They suck. They're not good. And in a divisional game, or not even, take away the divisional part, in a short week on Thursday Night Football, when Justin Reed's talking about it's a mental thing, the prep, the bodies, the mental game, make sure everybody knows where they're supposed to be, the right places, communication, all that's ready to go. They're switching everything over. The Chiefs have had everything in place. This is not a Sean Payton and, Lombardi offense/defense that's been around for 3 or 4 years that, okay, now you just lost to the New York Jets, giving up 31 points to them. Well, we'll be ready to go a few days later for the Kansas City Chiefs because everything's in place. Well, it is for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Their communication and everything is in place. You're seeing that with the defense. The Broncos have been brutal. And quite frankly, I think the line should be bigger. And the only reason the line is 10.5 is because it's a short week and it's a divisional game. And
Thursday Night Boogeyman.
Thursday Night Boogeyman, and the Denver Broncos and Kansas City Chiefs played close games last year. There's nothing about this that says this should be a close game.
What's the Chiefs over? Just for the Chiefs. Because I actually was thinking,
this is 48 is the total.
I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that the Chiefs win this football game. 0-0. If the money line minus whatever wasn't enough, that it would have to be every liquidated penny I could have to win $1 back, I would really be tempted to do the irresponsible thing like that on this one. My level of concern, I think, is the Chiefs are going to win this game. This game's going to be kind of fun. I think we see the offense get right. But I don't know if I want to bet on this game. That's the weird, backdoor cover Thursday night. Sometimes it's lower scoring than you'd think, whatever. With all the points you've laid out, that's why I'm thinking maybe I'll go look at the Chiefs individual line and see, maybe pick a couple individual players. But I don't know that it's going to be a huge game for Isaiah Pacheco, because what if they're up by 20 at halftime? I just wrote down. Here's the degenerate I am. I wrote down on my little paper over here. CEH carries line? Because I could see them giving Clyde like 8 carries to close out the game in a blowout. So I don't have betting advice for this game, but I certainly, if the Chiefs offense doesn't look really unbothered, we're gonna have a weird show on Friday.
They gave up 17 points to the Raiders in Week 1. Since then, they've given up 35 to the Commanders, 70 to the Dolphins, 28 to the Bears, and 31 to the Jets.
They got to break 30.
Are they keeping the Chiefs from getting to 30?
They haven't gotten to 30 yet. Mahomes could have slid into the end zone instead, and they could have hit 30. But
the Chiefs have gotten to 41.
Sorry. I need to admit that you're correct. They
haven't got to 30 in the first half.
They haven't gotten to 30 away from the Bears' defense, which is actually what my full take on that is. You're right. It's a good correction.
And according to the numbers, the Bears are a better defense than the Broncos.
Fair enough, I guess.
And what's the Chiefs' defense allowing the Broncos' offense? The Broncos' offense scored 33 against the Commanders and 31 against the Bears. They scored 16 against the Raiders, 20 against the Dolphins, and 21 against the Jets. Are they getting to 30?
All right, you talked me into it. I'll bet on the Chiefs to win.
Just the money line.
Just the money.
Hammer the money line. Chiefs will win this. Guaranteed. Lock it a year, a week, or a century.
$10 will win you $1.86. I'll probably pass.
$1,000 win you a couple $100 just that quick. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
You want me to throw up in the studio trying to figure out what $1,000 gets you?
I just told you. $186. You're good. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back.
And 91 cents.
Oh, $187.
Round up.
Yes. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. wrapping up this hour, we will talk with Braden Gall coming up at about 1:20 or so. Get his thoughts on some college football. Our college football insider from ESPN Radio and Athlon Sports, Braden Gall, will be our guest. Unfortunate weekend for two of the three. Big weekend for KU last weekend, taking care of business with UCF. And now we'll see how K-State and Mizzou bounce back and what KU can do heading down to Oklahoma State. 3.5-point favorites. KU, the only team favored this weekend. KU, 3.5-point favorites against the Cowboys. Mizzou, 2.5-point dogs in Lexington against Kentucky. And K-State in Lubbock, 1-point dog against Tech. Is Patrick Mahomes there?
Probably not.
Okay, just didn't
maybe.
know.
I don't know. Maybe he'll
Thursday.
Go. Yeah, sure. He'll have some off time.
He's got some off time. Maybe
as long as Taylor Swift's there, I'll be tuning in.
Me too.
The Zone is brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
You know, Mike McCarthy for the Dallas Cowboys says that Dak Prescott is not solely to blame for their struggles against the 49ers, so that's good to know.
Does he have anybody else in mind?
He is not solely to blame.
I would tend to agree. I'd also potentially point the finger to the head coach.
He's not the only one to blame. There are a lot of players who took part in that loss. A lot of players to blame for that. Nobody up here. He's not solely to blame.
Certainly nothing with the roster construction or anything like that from our general manager owner.
The manager, just like the Carolina Panthers.
Good luck in Carolina, guys.
Meddling owners there. So Frank Reich, it's all going well there. At least Frank Reich knows what it's like to have an owner that meddles now.
Yeah, right.
So it's a
exactly.
Previous job with a guy that was just silent. It was just a face. Just show up from time to time. Never hear from him. Why can't you ever talk there, guy? Now he's got this guy that apparently has meetings every week that aren't fun. So,
man,
good to know.
It's that audio clip. If anyone hasn't heard it, seen the whole thing, it feels a little bit like I really liked C.J. Stroud, but that's kind of how I took it.
Look, there are owners that just do different things, and some are involved in different decisions and everything, and that's good. I mean, that's fine. It's been great. It's been great here.
Those meetings fun? No, but they'll make us better. How? I'm not 100% sure, but I do think it'll happen probably.
So, totally, man. By the way, did you see the tattoo last night on that lady that was a Raiders fan?
No, I saw you had a tattooed Raiders fan written down on the show sheet, and I did not see it.
Did you see it, Dylan?
Was it the one that was referencing the Broncos this season?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, what?
She's wearing Raiders gear, and she's doing like the surrender cobra.
Yes.
Like that. And so like the inside of her arm, sort of like that would be against her armpit if she had her arm down. So like the inside there, it says F the Broncos, but the real word. F the Broncos. First place AFC West 2023. It's a Raiders tattoo.
I'm looking at it right now.
F the Broncos.
It's in like Times New Roman, by the way.
First place AFC West 2023. Which
there's something right above it also that I can't quite.
F the Broncos.
Above F the Broncos. There's just like
above
a
F the
little,
Broncos.
there's something up there that may or may not be related. I don't know.
So F the Broncos. But what is it again? Like first place AFC West 2023. Why are the Broncos the one that's getting the shade to start off? Wouldn't it be like F the Chiefs? There are a lot of people that probably have tattoos that say F the Chiefs now.
A good point.
It's just a weird tattoo, man.
It's very
Raiders
weird.
fans, dude. They're a group. They are a group. I mean, Chiefs had a guy dress up like a wolf that then robbed banks.
This tattoo is fresh. Like you can tell by like the line work and
fresh like it's new, or you like it. It's pretty cool.
Both.
It's a fresh tattoo, man.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, like I think it is honest to goodness in Times New Roman, which is really weird. It feels like a tattoo that she got either as a prank or for a bet or something. But I don't. It's it's like the Lions fans that always get like a Lombardi trophy and then it says like Lions whatever year Super Bowl champions, right? Like it's like okay, it's the Lions logo on a Lombardi trophy. Even if it's aspirational, that might be kind of fun. You can cover up the text later on or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. That's great.
This just looks like she like wrote down bleep the Broncos, real word, first place AFC West, new line 2023, font Times New Roman, size 16-point print.
You know what it looks like? It looks like something that can become a meme. You just cross that out and you put like any sort of words or anything in there for a tattoo.
If she would have put 2023 aligned to the left, I like both fonts and tattoos, everybody. So this is really at my wheelhouse. If she would have aligned 2023 to the left, then it could have been a thing where like, okay, not 2023, put a red line through it and put 2024. And then like at that point, you're like doing a tattoo version of the Browns like quarterback jerseys, you know?
That's right.
You're at least committing to it.
And that's great to do the tattoo version of that.
And that's
that.
Even as someone who has what I think could rightfully be described as odd tattoo choices.
Do you have odd tattoo choices?
I have odd tattoo choices.
What's the oddest tattoo you have?
It's either the quarter or the pine cone.
You have a quarter tattooed?
On my 25th birthday, I got a quarter the size of a quarter with a little like wreath around it. It's up by like my collarbone up here.
Well, that's typically where you would put
it's
a
where
tattoo
you'd
of
put
a quarter.
But I was in Florida with my family down there, and I was like, all right, I'd been messaging with the artist for a little while, and I got it on my 25th birthday. And you know, if I get 50, I might have to do a little silver dollar next to it. I don't know. I've hit 100. All of a sudden, if I live to 100, I'll get a dollar bill on my neck. I don't care.
No, dude, you got to get a picture of Benjamin Franklin.
That's good.
It's like on your other pec.
That's good. Well, my other pec currently has a plague doctor.
Has a plague doctor?
Yeah. It's hard to show you with the hoodie I'm wearing, but I'll show you sometime.
Why?
It was like a pandemic thing that Renee and I both did. Hers is a little cutesy one, and mine's like a ink line sort of style. It's sweet. I'll show you a picture that I don't have to take my shirt off for. But yeah, it was like kind of as all of that was winding down, and we had been in the house for a really long time.
I saw somebody tweeting about when Mahomes was
when you make me explain it, it's
yeah, it's weird. When Mahomes was in the golf tournament, they were tweeting about like, did you see how bruised Mahomes' leg is? Like it's all purple. It was a tattoo.
It was a new tattoo he got this
offseason. It was a
offseason.
tattoo that he got that's like almost his entire leg or whatever. I think. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a bathing suit lately.
It's his whole calf. It goes up to his knee, I think.
Well, now it's a frog in the calf.
Maybe is that the tattooed leg that keeps getting sprained?
I
Hello,
mean, come on, dude. Ink gets in there, starts to get poisoned a little bit. Everybody knows this. And then it weakens the joints and the ligaments. I mean, Bobby, what are you doing? You can't let him get a tattoo on that leg, man.
I haven't heard from my mom or Renee today until right now, and both of them texted me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
About your saying, take your shirt off, show him?
Renee said, take my shirt off, and my mom just is, I'm now worried about I don't know what she's going to say. She knows of all the tattoos that I have, but, you know, we haven't fully... I haven't fully gotten her to go to the matching tattoo thing with me yet. I keep kind of floating it out there, you know. It's an open offer now at this point. Just if you want to get one, man, we can go right now.
Let's figure it out, man.
After the show, I got great people that'll do good work. We can get little microphones or something. I don't know.
on the small of my back. I just want a microphone.
I think that'd be nice. I think that'd be. You could get one
That's
of the full like radio ones we have here now. That wouldn't. There's no way that shape would age poorly.
Yeah. Life size?
Yeah, definitely.
Just the life size?
Oh, what if you get on your forearm, though? How about that?
Yeah,
Fit
right
your
there?
Forearm right there. I guess I could turn it this way so you can... I mean,
Let's
come
go
on.
Tupac and just get like Thug Life above my belly button?
My cousin and I used to always joke that we would just get Hug Life over our belly button. But that one hasn't happened yet.
You haven't done that? No.
Not yet, I haven't.
Yeah.
But don't threaten me with a good time.
No, why would you? I was watching on, speaking of Mahomes' legs, I was watching on Sunday, and I don't know if you know this or not, but you're a Jersey guy, right? Not a New Jersey. But
No, I'm not really. Yeah, I love
you love
the
jerseys.
uniform.
You love uniforms.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
uniform combinations, things like that.
Yeah.
Did you notice something that we've seen for the first time ever with Patrick Mahomes?
I went too granular right away. Has he not done white on white yet?
No,
Or is it- okay.
I need Curtis in here.
My one, I'm not looking at the
Curtis!
picture. I haven't seen it yet.
Curtis!
Looks
Curtis! Curtis!
Hey, Curtis, are you working?
Come here. He's working. He's got
working.
headphones on. I don't care. I'm still going to ask him. Sorry, Curtis.
Jason made me do this.
Indulge me for a second.
Is it white on white with red socks? Is that different? Okay.
You got to indulge me. You got
Okay.
to indulge me for a second.
Can we just, Curtis? This mic is yours.
Yeah.
Sorry about.
The
Sorry.
two people
Are
I
you
know
allowed
that-
to be on this show?
The two people that I know that love uniforms and things like that the most. Indulge me for a second.
We got Dylan. We got K
Do
mic
we
up
have
here.
K's mic up on? All right, can you talk into it?
Hello.
There we go. It's up now. Dylan was like,
Testing,
yes.
1, 2.
He was like, yes, and then he actually
Stop
turned it on.
questioning me, guys. I
That's
got
right.
it.
Guys, I'm not dumb. We saw something with Patrick Mahomes for the first time in his career over the weekend in a uniform combination.
All white with white socks?
I said I couldn't remember what color the socks
guys-
were yesterday.
you guys are getting there. It's
so I went
close.
white, red socks. I couldn't remember if maybe they broke it up.
It's the first. I mean, you guys want to take a
no head wrap?
Nope. You guys want
color
to take
head
a
wrap?
guess?
We're both really
You're really
simmering on
close.
it.
He played with no shoes.
Now
Marcus
you're,
Peters. He played with those
Now
socks.
you're
Bare
really
feet.
close.
Different shoes.
Was it his? Are they signature? Were they his own cleats?
No, it's the first
He played in
time.
sandals.
It's the first time he's worn the Stormtroopers with red shoes.
Okay.
He's always
he
gone
goes white.
white all the way down. And when they wear the Stormtroopers, he was rocking red shoes with the Stormtroopers on Sunday, like he was really feeling it.
Okay.
And I'm like, I wonder if Curtis or Josh noticed that he's rocking the Stormtroopers and the bright red shoes. Because sometimes he'll wear some gold with some red in there. Sometimes it's white shoes with some red Adidas. This was red on red shoes with all white down.
I think I was still recovering from KU's uniforms on Saturday, and then the Miami Chaser.
Oh my goodness! Oh,
in the late game, my brain was just
No
I was
doubt.
only seeing black and white by the time Sunday came around.
No, that makes total
Defense
sense.
mechanism.
Makes total sense. To me, it stood out kind of like a sore thumb because
Yeah.
it's just these huge red shoes. It reminded me of like Jalen Daniels when he went to the Big 12 Media Day and he had those like red suede or whatever those shoes were in his suit. I'm like, Mahomes is rocking the red shoes with the all white, and he's always been Stormtrooper all the way down with the white shoes.
It's the same pair of shoes for 15 years. I'm not really a shoe guy.
Uniform stop at the socks for you.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't know.
Brisco.
I didn't know if
Brisco's
you.
a shoe guy.
Yeah, I didn't know if you got noticed or not.
I'll go
All right,
back
there you
and
go.
look. That's
There you go.
interesting.
It was indulging me there. So it's the first
Okay.
time we've ever seen Mahomes Stormtroopers with the bright red shoes.
Thought I could not help.
Since we're on the topic, Curtis, red socks or white socks in this look, and do you prefer the Stormtroopers or the red pants?
The Red Sox are required for the white on white to look the best because it balances out the helmet.
I agree, especially with the red shoes.
Well, they didn't wear it back in the Schottenheimer years. They didn't have they wore those socks with the all white. But once they started wearing the white on white, they went to the Red Sox. Like, that's what they wore against the Chargers last year.
But the white on white, they sort of have their choice though.
That's
So
true.
some
Right.
players go
Right.
Red Sox, some players go White Sox.
Ooh, I don't know that
Mahomes
that's-
has always
I don't
gone
know
Red
that
Some of
Sox.
the guys, when they wear the white socks, they look like surgical socks, like
Yeah.
they're trying to prevent a blood clot or something.
Yep.
It looks really weird.
Kelsey typically when he goes with the white pants and white socks, he'll wear like a bright gold shoe
Yeah.
with that, so he sticks out a little
Sure,
bit.
sure.
But Mahomes is always just blended in, white all the way down to the shoe. Somebody should have asked him today. What was the choice of red shoe? You've always
we missed that one.
Why, Patrick? Why did you go red? Were you feeling yourself a little bit? Did you get a little too cocky there? You know, was it because Taylor Swift wasn't there? You needed some pizzazz.
Gold cleats for Kelsey also looked great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Curtis.
Thanks, Curtis. Appreciate you being
Get
here for the
back
most
to
important part of
work.
the show.
Do something for Christ's sake, Curtis. Come on. There you go. All right, I've been indulged.
This is great. I love uniform talk. I do like the red socks better. I really prefer. I think white over red is actually the Chiefs' best look.
Yeah.
I know it's hot.
Yep.
That's a hot take, but
it's a hot,
red helmet, white jersey, red pants, your white socks at that point, red cleats. I think that's the one-on-one.
I'm okay with the road games, bouncing from white on red to the all white.
Sure, a little variance is
A little
okay.
variance
Yep,
is,
I agree.
is okay.
I'm cool with that.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's ever been a pattern for Mahomes' cleats because sometimes he'll wear some gold with some red. Sometimes he'll wear some red with some white in there. Sometimes he'll wear some white with the red Adidas. It's always Adidas. And sometimes he'll wear some cleats that are heavily taped with tape around the ankles. He did it against the Jags. Is right. What color cleat was he wearing against the Jags? White. Because if it wasn't white before, it was white after it with the tape job in the divisional round last year. All right, that was totally random. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll talk with Braden Gall, get some college football next.
star, Braden Gall.
Nobody cares.
Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Everyone has their own taste, and mine is just better.
Brought to you by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. Whatever you do, if you're a Missourian, we're for you. We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we've got you covered.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We go from uniform talk to talking some college football with Braden Gall, ESPN Radio and Athlon Sports, joining us here in the zone. Braden, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. How is Mario Cristobal doing after that game on Saturday night? I'm not sure I've ever seen a game where you go, you know what? I feel like the coaching decision literally cost them that game, and a win turned into a loss. Have you seen anything like that before where it's like, let's just keep running the football for no reason whatsoever? Why take a knee here when you can hand it off?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, yes. You just have to go way, way back. I mean, it's happened before. Coaches outsmart themselves all the time, but to your point, I've never seen anything like that, at least not recently, where all you have to do is take a knee. And, man, it's just – I think there was was it like a defensive lineman who's out there on the bench, and he gets caught on camera, and he's just like, what the bleep are we doing? Like, He's just shaking his head on the sidelines. And it's like, yeah, dude, I feel you, man. That's exactly what I said, sitting here in my living room going, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm with you. I've never seen anything like it. College football is one of the greatest – it's the greatest sport on the planet because you just never know what you're going to see. But, man, talk about – and what's crazy is, like, the season that they're having.
Yeah.
Like, if they just – the context, like, at the end of the year, if they're 9-3 – and they miss a chance at the ACC championship game because of it. That's what's even worse. It's one thing if it's like 2, 3, and 3 teams, you know, and somebody does something dumb, and you're like, it gets headlines for a while, but then like everyone forgets, minus the people in the community, of course, but everyone like nationally doesn't think of it. Like, this is going to be something we're tracking now. It's sort of like the Iowa coaching staff. It's like Brian Ferentz's contract. Like, you did something so egregious that everyone now is going to track it, but it's because they're good. And that's the concern. And honestly, what it does is it cements sort of the image of Mario Cristobal as a coach. I think everyone knows he's a great recruiter. He knows how to acquire talent. Probably a pretty good defensive line coach, but people just don't know, like, if he knows how to manage the game, or does he offer and create a scheme advantage? Like, there's nothing that he has on his resume at any point, whether it was, I think it was Sun Belt at the time. Was it FIU in the Sun Belt? I can't remember where they were at the time he was coaching. Maybe it was Kusa. But like every step of the way, people will ask questions about his ability to handle the nuances of the game, both in the game and around the game. And I can't imagine a more blatant piece of evidence to the contrary.
Is this, look, last year was year one, but even in year one, it was the fewest wins, since 2007, and it was the fewest wins in the ACC in like almost 10 years, going 5-7 last year. So, but it was also year one, and they were off to the 4-0 start and should be 5-0 if you just take the knee. Is this one that you can overcome if you're a coach? I mean, he's recruiting really well, but the rest of the year, it's a different situation than what happened with Bobby Petrino's final year in Louisville, so I will just say that out of the gates. But against Florida State, the Louisville Cardinals were leading late in the game, and they decided to throw the ball on first down with like 1:15 to go for some reason instead of just handing it off, and it was intercepted, and Florida State then scored a touchdown 2 plays later to win. And the Louisville team just tanked after that. I mean, they were losing by 20, 30 points after that. And we had a football player that was an intern after that season and said, when that happened, the whole team just said, well, bleep this. This guy didn't know what the hell he's doing. We're done. And it was like a collective quitting. I'm not saying this is going to happen in Miami because Bobby Petrino was also an AH that the players didn't like anyway. But is there a worry?
But a great schematic coach. That's what's wild about the story. Right. That Bobby Petrino, like if you're a player that plays for him, you may not like him. Well, take that back. You don't like him.
That's right.
But at least you trust he's going to put you in a position to succeed offensively, probably. Right. But by and large, he has done that for 2 or 3 decades in his career. That is the question about Mario Cristobal. Now, here's another dynamic at play. There is a lot of upward mobility in the ACC, and what I mean by that is there are not many teams. The reason Clemson was able to Clemson its way to the top of the conference so quickly was because if you recruit top 12, top 15 classes in the ACC, you are going to have better players than almost everyone you play, with the exception of 1 or 2 teams. And in Louisville's case this year, they don't play either one of them, Clemson or Florida State, ironically. But there's so much upward mobility that if you are recruiting the best players, you can be John Calipari in the ACC and be a good football coach at Miami if you have top 15 classes, which they're probably going to have. So can you line up and beat Wake Forest, Pittsburgh, North Carolina, Boston College, Syracuse? Listen to the list I'm talking about here. North Carolina recruits pretty well, but the ACC is not exactly littered with top-level recruiting powers in the world of football. So I think they could be 9-10 wins-ish with a questionable head coach if they have elite players. And so does it hurt them in the long term? I don't know. It's one of those things that if you look back in 4 years and you're in that weird gray area with a coach and you're not really sure, do we continue to move on with this? Do we need to make a move? There's risk reward in that decision if you have a coach who's sort of on the fence, if it's not just blatantly obvious that he's terrible. And that's the kind of thing that, if you've got enough people in the room and 3 of them remember how it felt that night, or maybe some checks don't come in this week.
Oh, yeah.
For some of those NIL deals, that's where you can start having questions about it. But I doubt that one really, really poor decision has an effect. If you are losing to Wake Forest and Syracuse and Georgia Tech consistently each year, you're done no matter how you lose.
Yeah, and the difference would be this was a 4-0 team, and the disappointment would be that loss and what they were hoping they could accomplish versus, that team in 2018 that I'm talking about was 2-2 and just got beat pretty good by Virginia, and they were teetering. It was like this thing can go either way, and then that happened.
So here's the thing: if they go 10-2 and they miss the playoff, or they miss the ACC championship game because of this loss, and let's say Duke or North Carolina or Clemson or whoever gets in, right? Hypothetically, and it's a tiebreak loss or something like that, they miss it barely, but they have a pretty good team, and then they go 9-3 and 8-4, right? So good teams, 3 winning seasons. That's almost 25 wins in 3 years or 27 wins in 3 years. Not terrible. But if it's going in the wrong direction and people are going, I'm not sure about this, and you could point back to the fact that the first good year didn't deliver the thing that you wanted, that's the thing that could break the camel's back. Like Tennessee last year, for example, maybe it's a tricky situation because Hendon Hooker's injury, but if Josh Heupel never gets back to that 10-2 record, or never gets back and beats Alabama, or never gets to an SEC championship game, a lot of people are going to point to the South Carolina game. Even though it was a great season, and it was a memorable season, and it's something that Tennessee fans will have, especially beating Alabama, forever in their memories, it came up just short at the end, right? And so if you come up just short and then the trajectory doesn't go above that, and doesn't trend in the positive direction, that's where people remember those things, those moments that you just go, oh my God, what are we doing? And it happens in a lot of different ways. It could be an injury, it could be a blowout, it could be bad defense, it could be a boneheaded decision. There's a lot of things. Like for Jim Harbaugh, for the longest time, it was inches on a 4th down that JT Barrett picked up. Like if you remember that game, Ohio State, Michigan, like if they stopped JT Barrett on a 4th and inches, the entire narrative around Jim Harbaugh would have been changed 5 years ago, not 2 years ago.
Yeah, interesting. Braden Gull's our guest, ESPN Radio Athlon Sports. He is presented by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. Was Georgia playing with their food until they felt like they might have been really tested, and then came out and played over the weekend? Or what's the what's the recipe for winning against some teams a little closer and then just punking what seemed to be a pretty solid team and top 20 over the weekend?
Yeah, here's my concern about the SEC if I'm a fan, either in the conference or just a college football fan, is that the more things change, the better and better Georgia and Alabama get. That would be my concern, is that there's so much parity in the conference but that Georgia and Alabama, you had your chance at them, right? Texas got them. South Carolina couldn't get Georgia. Auburn couldn't get Georgia. Certainly Kentucky didn't. They're going to play Florida in a neutral field. They got Missouri, with again, good teams. Florida, Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, all good teams. 3 of those are at home, and Tennessee's on the road, and I don't think Tennessee can run the football against them. So Georgia is getting better every week. Carson Beck is getting more comfortable every week. The offense is getting more complicated every week. They're getting healthier on offense every week. They do need Mims back at right tackle, but they didn't even use Lad McConkey this weekend. Didn't even need him. He's there. Didn't even need him. They have the best player in all of college football in Brock Bowers. The schedule sets up for the first time, and they didn't like they never were not the number one team in the country, but now they really look like it, right? And so I think, but some of that is, they lost 15 players to the draft 2 years ago. They lost 12 players to the NFL, most of which were on offense this past year. Like, they're just they lost their coordinator, they lost their quarterback. They just had so much new. And like, not many teams are still going to be sitting there at 6-0 and 3-0 in the conference with largely, again, relatively easy wins. I know they made it look hard against Auburn, but when they needed it, their quarterback was dynamite in the 3 straight scoring drives in a hostile environment in the second half. So does that mean they're good enough to win the national championship? I don't know. I'm not picking them to win the national championship because no one's ever won 3. But I think Georgia is going to get better as the season goes along. We're already seeing that. And I think Alabama is going to be in the same kind of boat. They're going to keep getting better as the season goes along. And I don't know how many teams. I think Penn State's an interesting one. Keep an eye on that one. They could get better and better as the season goes along. Ohio State's getting a little bit better as the season goes along. Florida State's is going to get a little bit better as the season goes along. So, there's a handful of teams that you can kind of, Michigan's already pretty good. They're just not tested yet. USC's not trending in the right direction, right? Washington is kind of, there's questions about Washington. Oklahoma's getting better. That's the one that you could probably put into that conversation. So the question is who's going to be playing their best, and in particular their best at quarterback in the last 6 weeks of the season. And you can already see Georgia and Alabama starting to form, and that's probably dangerous for everyone else in the SEC, and it might be dangerous for everyone else in college football.
Visiting with Braden Gall. All right, what do you make of the Mizzou LSU game? The loss there at home, a fantastic start from Missouri. They're up 22-7, and then end up losing by 10. Certainly closer than the score would indicate. Now they got a trip to Lexington to face off against Kentucky that was on the wrong side of that Georgia ledger. But what do you make of that game and that opportunity that was there for Mizzou?
I think if Devin Leary, the Kentucky quarterback, who was one of the most frustrating players to watch last week, just could not throw the football to open players. If Devin Leary is like 22 of 26 against Missouri's defense this weekend, I will have legitimate concerns about Missouri's defense with what is a tough schedule coming up. If they shut down Devin Leary and Devin Leary is inefficient the way he's been inefficient the rest of the season, and then you see the offense play pretty well on the road against a very good defense, and they kind of show that they are they really are what we've seen from them, then I think you can look at the LSU game and you can say that was an elite quarterback with elite weapons. We made some mistakes. We had the 2 turnovers. We certainly could have covered better in the secondary in the second half. But, LSU's doing that to everybody. That's LSU's offense. Jaden Daniels is the best player in the conference right now as far as quarterback play goes. Sometimes you just run up against the buzzsaw of an offense, and sometimes the other team just makes a couple of plays. I didn't think LSU was significantly better. I didn't think, frankly, they were better. I think they were basically evenly matched teams. And LSU happened to make a couple of plays in the fourth quarter. Harold Perkins makes a big one. You don't cover somebody, and all of a sudden there's a pick six in the game. All of a sudden it looks like a different score, right? I think the context of that game we're not going to know for another couple of weeks. And so if they go play really well on defense against Devin Leary, if the offense goes and scores points against Kentucky's defense on the road in Lexington, I think you can kind of put the context in and say that was more LSU than it was Missouri. Because, again, Ole Miss beat them, but, that was a total shootout. Ole Miss didn't stop them. Arkansas didn't stop them. Florida State beat them, but, Florida State could be the national champion. I'm picking them to win the whole thing. So, I think LSU is really good. I could argue that I'm sort of proud's not the right word, but like I'm buying into what Missouri is because of how well they played in that game. If they make Devin Leary look very efficient, and then you see the defense continue to struggle in the second half of the season, then it raises a few more questions. But I think we just won't know that until, so much of football is it's not always what you did, it's what the other guy did. And sometimes you don't know how much of the outcome to put on a certain side of the game. Like Texas-Oklahoma, I think we can all just be like, nobody choked in that game. It was just two teams, two rivals battling it out, and one team just made a bunch of plays, and then the other team made a bunch of plays, and then the next team made a bunch of plays, and it was a great game, and we shouldn't learn too much about it. Just enjoy it. And I think you could say that about LSU Missouri. These are two just really good offenses, two quarterbacks playing at a high level, lots of weapons, great atmosphere. Just enjoy the fact that it was two teams going back and forth, and maybe they're not great on defense, but like that's not the context. The context is the offenses are really good.
Yeah. Braden Gull is our guest. The only team that ended up winning over the weekend of the local schools ended up being Kansas, that faced off against UCF. That's right. And UCF had a stretch of 50-0 against Big 12 opponents after jumping out to that huge lead against Baylor. And then Kansas takes a 31-0 lead. My takeaway from the Kansas-UCF game is, man, I would like to see Kansas play Texas where Jason Bean practices all week and isn't told that morning that you're playing today. That Jalen Daniels wakes up and has a back tightness and can't play, and, oh, Jason Bean, you haven't taken any of the first-team reps, and now you're going out there running the game plan against Texas. And they lose 40-14. Because the way they bounced back, where, you lose to Texas that way, and there's sort of a build-up and a lead-up to, that Texas game, and all week people are talking about it, and they play like that, and it's like, well, are they that bad? Is Texas that good? Is that about Jalen Daniels not being able to play? Is it Jason Bean? And then they go and do what they did against UCF, jumping out 31-0 with Jason Bean that got practice reps all week. I would like to see them play Texas again with a healthy Jalen Daniels, or Bean knows all week that he's starting.
Well, we will. We'll get it in a couple of weeks when Oklahoma comes to town.
There you go.
That's the game we're going to get that.
It's a transitive property.
So, yeah, I mean, Oklahoma and Texas are largely equal. So I joke, but, like, not really. They're largely equal. Kansas absolutely has a chance to get into the Big 12 championship game, even with their tiebreaker loss to Texas, if they can beat Oklahoma at home. And I believe I was on this show, and I said, look, I think Kansas is going to beat Oklahoma at home a long time ago.
You did say that.
That looks better I'm looking smarter because of how Kansas has played. I'm looking dumber because of how Oklahoma's played. So right now I'm still equally as smart is what I'm getting at.
That's right, yeah.
Basically, look, Kansas is – I don't know about West Virginia. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season – because I was a big Neil Brown fan when he was hired. I thought he did a really good job at Troy. I think he's a really smart culture builder. I think he needed to be at a place that was patient, and by default West Virginia has been patient because of their financial issues. So that's partly why he's still there, but it's kind of paying off, of course. If you'd have told me West Virginia would have wins over super arch rival Pittsburgh, a Big 12 preseason darling in Texas Tech, and the team that played in the national championship game last year, you would have won a lot of money from almost everybody in this industry. So West Virginia is overachieving. We don't know what they are. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas is kind of who I thought would be here. I thought Kansas State would be with them, so Friday night was disappointing.
Yep.
But those top three are kind of three of the top four that I expected, and I want to see – Kansas still has to prove it belongs. The other two, I think, have clearly proven they belong. Texas has to make sure it doesn't do something, Texas-y, and Oklahoma just kind of has to stay the course. And so they can afford to lose one somewhere. That could be Kansas. The Jayhawks are so fun to watch, man. Like, they're just I don't know how many different ways to say how much fun it is to watch them play football. That being said, the four new teams 1-8 in the conference. I think it's a real-time experiment and results showing you how much harder it is to play a Power 5 schedule, even if it's not even considered one of the best Power 5 conferences, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's a reason the Pac-12 hasn't gotten a team into the playoff, because it's a really decent, really quality conference, and they all beat each other up. I think you're seeing that in the SEC with teams like Arkansas and Auburn and Mississippi State, those are not terrible football teams. They're not great, but they're not terrible. They are combined 0-8 in the conference. Like, those 4 teams in the Big 12 can't go more than 1-8 in the Big 12. So I just think it's showing us that the week in, week out grind of playing against Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Oklahoma Tech, like, that is hard. That is so much harder than the AAC, and I think we're learning that.
Yeah,
or at least some people I hope are learning that.
you would hope. And a matter of 48 minutes. I mean, UCF was one of the better schools that we looked at to enter the Big 12 and how good they would be right away, comparatively speaking to the others. And they had a 48-minute stretch against the Big 12 where they were losing 50-0, with the 29 points in the final 18 minutes against Baylor in the first half. And then the first play of the second half, where Kansas is up 31-0 in roughly 30 minutes of football. So, that was a rough stretch. Oklahoma State did something that I did not think was going to happen. I was pretty confident on K-State going and winning. And it's interesting from both schools' perspective, because KU playing the way they did against UCF and bouncing back from that Texas loss, they head into a bye week after that, and then Oklahoma. It's one of those to where, all right, is this a trap game? You're starting to look ahead of the bye week, and you're playing against a team that is just struggling, is not very good, and lost against a group of 5. And what happened was that, Oklahoma State certainly, got the attention of KU in playing that way, and clearly got the attention of K-State. What happened in that game, and is there concern for Will Howard that has, 3 interceptions and just a couple of touchdowns over the last couple of games for him?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I didn't see a ton of it on Friday night, but when you look at the box score and you see that much inefficiency, less than 5 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
The pick six certainly at the end, like the number of scoring drives. And, like, Kansas State's defense did pretty well in the red zone, obviously, but, like, the number of scoring drives Oklahoma State had, it's like 5, 6, 7 scoring drives. One of them's a pick six. The 3 turnovers you mentioned, like, the inefficiency is the question. Now, the other thing is, the way Oklahoma State kind of ran the football, I think that was a concern if I'm a Kansas State fan. It was just very undued, It was it was a very undued performance by Kansas State, because it's kind of the opposite of what Chris Kleiman has built his entire culture on, which is efficiency, fundamentally sound defense, fundamentally sound offense, take care of the football, et cetera, cliche. And to see sort of all of it in one box score is kind of a hard thing to see. Honestly. So if you have any idea what Oklahoma State is, please let me know. We had a long We had a long conversation last week on the show. You and I did, and then we did it on our show as well, where it's like, how do you know when a coach has earned the right to see it through? And you can talk about so many different guys in the history of college football, currently and in the past, where you just don't know. You don't know if it's the right time to move on a guy. You don't know if it's the right time to give the guy a chance to pour more resources into a guy. Like, fans do the easy thing. They blame the offensive coordinator, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But, like, it's far more complicated than that. And so, can you evolve? I have no idea if Oklahoma State's evolved or not. Like, certainly was a nice win for Mike Gundy and that program. But, like, what does it mean? I have no idea. Honestly, it means to me, this is one of those where I was just saying, like, there's 50% of it's on the loser, 50% of it's on the winner. Sometimes it's 100% the winner just went out and did it. Sometimes it's a team pooped on themselves, and you just don't know. And you're going to have to figure that out as the season goes along. But, like, this one's completely baffling on both sides, because I have no idea what Oklahoma State is, and it was the opposite, antithetical to everything that Kansas State is and how they operate.
Yeah, they better figure it out before Texas Tech this weekend, 6 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. It's the first time K-State's been a dog going into a game. Last one for you. It's back-to-back weeks that teams are playing each other in the final year of their conference, and it's the big game of the day. Oklahoma, Texas, the future SEC matchup, and then coming up on Saturday, Oregon, Washington, the Big Ten matchup, coming up at 2:30 on ABC. The Pac-12 overshadowing the 2:30 CBS, SEC window. The hell's happening?
It should. In my family, it will not, as I am taking my 7 and 5-year-old daughters to Neyland Stadium for their first ever trip to disappointment as Tennessee alumni. So Texas A&M is going to win that game.
Okay.
Guaranteeing.
I'm going to go ahead and put Texas A&M money line.
Right. The fact that my wife and I and our best friends and their 2 kids and our 4 kids are all under the age of 7, are all going to Neyland Stadium for the first time. is guaranteed defeat because you have to teach Tennessee people how to be disappointed early.
Okay.
But it's a great – Oregon-Washington is just one of the most underrated. I'm glad it's – nationally, I'm actually genuinely glad it's overshadowing. I told my wife I was pretty upset that they were on the same time because we're getting in the car and heading home. It's about a 2-hour drive, 2.5-hour drive to Nashville. We gain an hour, and so I could actually get home and watch the Oregon-Washington game on my DVR there. So, I was actually pretty upset that it wasn't later in the night. But it deserves the coverage because it is one of the best rivalries in all of college football that nobody really talks about. Aesthetically, I'm saying just purely as a viewer, it is aesthetically one of the most pleasing football games you will ever watch. The uniforms on both sides are extraordinary. The settings, both Seattle and Eugene, are amazing. The offenses are so much fun to watch. The quarterbacks this year are electric. It is just one of the best games that you'll ever see. Last year's game was unbelievably good and dramatic. Washington with the win on the road, the whole thing was great. So I just think it's one of the best games in college football that I don't think the casual fan, especially east of the Mississippi, thinks too much about. But I'm glad it's getting national coverage and national treatment. Of all the times we promoted a very below average Colorado team this summer, is the number of times we should be promoting Oregon and Washington. It's that good of a football game.
Can't wait for it. The over-under, the total is 67 and a half, and probably moving up the other way. Braden Gall, ESPN Radio Athlon Sports. Braden, you're the man as always. Appreciate the time, brother. We will talk next week.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. There's Braden Gall. He is presented every week. We have him on by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. Whatever you do, if you're a Missourian, they're for you. They are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and they've got you covered. That is a 2:30 game coming up on Saturday. It is the same time that KU and UCF will play. So maybe double screens if you're a KU fan, and double screens for me. But cannot wait for Washington and Oregon. He is right, aesthetically pleasing. The style, the uniforms, as we were just talking about, that everything. Cannot wait for that one, and a lot of points. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. Thank you to Braden Gall. Got some baseball coming up today. 3 o'clock is when a little baseball action happens. And then tonight on Sports Radio 810, we've got the American League Divisional Series. Orioles heading down to Texas. The Rangers with a 2-game lead and will be returning home now. So the Orioles have now lost 5 straight home games in the postseason. And they lost the wild card in 2016, and then they lost the first 2 games against the Royals in the championship series in 2014. And then they just lost these 2 games. I like this Orioles team, so it's not like, obviously the La Canfora thing and all of that stuff with the fun sort of Baltimore tie-in and him not being happy about these O's ain't royal, which is fine, whatever.
I haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah.
I saw him fine.
He was in the stands before Game 1 and took some video of it and was there and enjoying himself. And good. I mean, if you're an Orioles fan, again, you haven't felt this good about your team since that, 2014, 2012 through 2015, run. So, good for them. But, man, you lose those first 2 games at home, and now you're heading down to Texas, and Texas is just playing some awesome baseball right now. And they are powered by Creed. I mean, when that's happening, I mean, that's a freight train. That's a gravy train with biscuit wheels. Good luck. And Dayton Moore. You get Dayton Moore, and you get Creed in the clubhouse rocking before every game.
How could you not win?
I'm just glad the Royals aren't in the position of the Orioles this year, because I'd be pissed if you get a season like this and then you go up against Dayton Moore and Creed. Scott Stapp.
Look at this playoff staff! Sorry, that's what I was doing for the last minute or so.
You better not pitch me higher.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
I'll send this ball to a place you can't see.
Hit the cutoff guy. The who? With arms wide open.
If you pitch me higher.
We need something like the Marlins song he sang a while back for the Rangers.
That's right, yeah. They should have him sing the national anthem.
That would be good.
In a Marlins jersey, because Marlins band would be there in Marlins stuff.
Jose, can you?
She. All right, program next. We are done.
Thank God.